endless bedroom shadows, cloaked and haunting me, cold hand touching me, fear overwhelming me, tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes, a breath on my neck, floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on, I wake up paralyzed. Ghostly apparition hovering over me, asking what it wants to know. I'm shaking now, it calls out my name, cloaked and haunting me, cold hand touching me, fear overwhelming me, tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes, a breath on my neck, floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on, I wake up paralyzed.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. Here it is, the real reality. And this is Monday. Or Monday, you know what that means. You can jump on and tell your crazy stories. Here it is. Let's see. We got it right here. Join the show right there. All right. Gold at 3,900. Yeah, it's actually higher. It's almost at 4,000 right now. It's at 39, like 92 or something like that. 39.92, I think. Something. So, yeah, well, Sparky, they call me Josh. They call me Wolf. They call me all kinds of stuff. What's up? Let's get my co-host on in here. Let me put my headphones in. I got to be burdened with them so this guy can be on the show. Ridiculous, this guy. What's up, man? I see you keep coming back. I guess I'm stuck with you, man.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
We're
He's
all
like,
on
you grow on me like ringworm.
That's it.
I'll grow on you.
Like a skin fungus.
Like a fungus. How are you today, dude? Are you good?
Excellent, sir. Yourself?
Good. I'm all right. I've had
Good.
a shitty day, kind of, but
Oh,
it is what it is, dude. I mean, you wake up, you read the attacks, you laugh.
yeah, I saw that they had some stuff to say about me as well.
Really? What? I didn't even read it all, I guess, because I didn't see that. What were
Yeah,
they?
Nelly just pointed it out to me. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'm your indentured servant.
Oh, don't feel bad. They're always wishing my death and everything else. You gonna say hi, Anthony?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Oh shit, that was loud.
See, I would have said sycophant as opposed to indentured servant, but they don't know what a sycophant means. So
It's too many syllables, too many letters.
Too many things to try to remember.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just like brushing their teeth, combing their hair, and taking out their trash. They're not going to do that.
Yeah. Brushing their tooth, not teeth.
That's why it's called a toothbrush, not a teeth brush.
Yes.
yes,
You stupid son of bitches. That's why they call it a toothbrush, not a teeth brush.
Teeth having bastard. You think you're special because you can read books and goddamn teeth.
You know what's fun about this, though? What's so funny about this is that every day I try to figure out which one is worse, and then they just keep topping each other. It's crazy.
Leapfrog.
Yeah, you'll think that this is the biggest liar ever. You know, like Farton, he actually said that I publicly cursed 3 people that I hold in high regard, people that I'm Ron Moorhead, Martin Groves, and Daryl Denton. All 3 of those men I have the utmost respect for. All of them. And he's literally says I cursed them in public.
Well, if you did that, then why aren't they saying that that's the case?
I don't know. Maybe they're under a spell. I don't know.
It's like
They're like Django with AIDS.
in public.
It's crazy, dude. The stuff that they come up with is just nuts. And then they made a thing about not praying for me because to pray for me, according to Roofer, praying for me would be a sin. That guy is sometimes I think he's the biggest liar, but it's between him and Ike. But Farton's getting up there, man. We should take bets and count the lies and see which one is getting, further up there for the lying. Cluffy's he's trying to make a case for himself being evil, being more evil. I think he's one of the worst only because, and I'll give him this, like he's really, really butthurt, right? But he's angry in a way. It's crazy because he knows the truth. Like he really does know the truth. Now you could say Farton might have been deceived by these people, but I think he was willingly, what is it called? Willful ignorance. I think he was willingly deceived. Like he went along with it because he wanted to fight. He knows I wasn't that hammer guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And this crazy narratives that they've built around everything. And the Roofer talking about, that I paid a warlock came forward. Get this, folks. This is hilarious. A warlock came forward and admitted that I tried to pay him to curse them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because you can't do it yourself. I mean, honestly, folks, if you really know the true nature of reality, which we do, everybody is capable of cursing anybody at any time.
Absolutely.
You can curse people on your own. You don't need to go pay some warlock. That's really a scam. If you're a bad person, you could visit bad upon people with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing, folks. And that is something that we need to talk about. Not these people, but not doing those things, because when you're angry, you say things out of anger. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
And then you curse people, by saying, but the thing about him saying that I cursed is I've never said anything against those men. So I don't know what he's talking about. They say things very boldly and brashly. And so it's so shocking that people actually will latch onto it because they think, why would these people say these outlandish things unless there's some kernel of truth to it, right?
The power of life or death.
In the spirit, supernatural research. Hello. Never seen you before. So who is this?
Yeah, the power of life and death's in the tongue, and that's what cursing is.
Mm-hmm. And then they're telling people not to accept our merchandise because it's full of spells.
Who has time for all these?
You cannot make this stuff up if you try to. Look, oh my gosh! And anybody who tries to call for peace or tries to say, "Hey, let's be reasonable," they go off on them. They go all in on them, and it's just
some people's children.
It's crazy, man. I just can't. Oh, that's an interesting handle there. The spirit and the sword and the spirit, supernatural research. So who are you? Sparky. Here's Sparky here. There's a difference in power of thought and curse that you call for spirits or entities to your bidding. That's evil. Yeah, and you can do it. You can curse people on your own. That's my point. You don't have to go and hire a witch to do that. And I would love to see this. I would pay $1 bazillion to see this warlock that supposedly I went to get to recruit to curse you. I will give you every bazillion dollars. I'll be in debt for 10 lifetimes. Knowing damn well that doesn't exist.
That'd be a neat trick.
For a man that's always quoting, he loves the Old Testament, that Larry boy. He's an Old Testament guy.
Yeah.
He don't care nothing about the New Testament. He never quotes the New Testament. He don't care about Jesus. Jesus is right out to him. All he cares about is that Old Testament anger, vengeance, violence, and death. He's into the cult of ignorance and death. Roofer, I'm calling you out, man. If you have something to say, you or your fat buddy who loves to call me fat, you are way out of shape and fatter than me, Cluffy Fluffy. But if either one of you or all of you together, including Skin Tag, the walking skin tag of Oklahoma, and Farton, the beady-eyed cosplayer, all of you can come to my show. We'll go to Rumble, and we'll all talk and watch what happens. And I won't talk over you. I'll let you lay down your facts and bring your receipts, and we'll show ours. You will be roasted. That's why you don't do it. That's why you will not do it. You won't meet me in public. Barton's only way he would do that is he said that we sold tickets for pay-per-view. Something's not going to happen. Right? he said that. Then he says he would debate me if I sold tickets, snow cone machine and some elote.
Everything's a grift with this old man.
And then I had to apologize for everything I've done, which I'll apologize for my part, right? But then I had to say that I did all this stuff, started all. Basically, I would have to lie. He wants me to lie and say that I'm responsible for everything. I'm not. I am absolutely not. And I can prove it. So that is what's going on, folks. It's crazy, man. It's wild, man. There's people out there, coming to me and saying that he said this, he said that he said, she said. I'm just like, dude, these people won't come and talk. They will just hide behind their keyboards because they're cowards. They're chickens. They're a bunch of cowards. Farton likes to talk big, like he would do something to us if we were in person. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do a damn thing. You would do nothing. You would call the police because that's all you can do. And you've already said you've done that, so why would I even contemplate it?
Can't even wield that sword that you play around with, dude. Chill out.
Yeah, so whatever, dude. It's all fun and games, right?
I mean, anyone can join the show right now.
We had a great time on the show last night. We had a great time on the show every time we've been on the show. And we had a great time recording recently, Richard. That
Absolutely.
That stuff with Sean is going to be good stuff. I mean, it was really, really.
It's a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a good conversation, that's for sure. All 7 hours of it.
Yeah, over 2 days. So the Sword in the Spirit Supernatural Research has been looking for a place to share. Come share. Come and share what you got to share. The floor is open. Anybody wants to jump in, whether you're a friend or foe. I don't care. I'm not afraid.
Yeah, you can click the link that we posted and pinned at the top of the chat. It'll take you to the StreamYard studio where you can be a guest on the show. That's how you call in. You just click that link, and you can share your experiences.
Oh, there's a bunch of people down in the chat. I just got to get them in. So let's get these people in here. Oh, we got Sparky. Sparky, what you got there, man? I hope
what
that's
is going on, guys?
Is that O'Doul's?
Sure.
True, what's going on, True? And then we got Scott Baker in the house. What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing tonight?
All right, how you doing,
guys?
Good. Somebody said it's a long distance to call to Canada. Well,
not over the internet. It's not.
Over the internet. It's not.
No. Yeah, you don't have to call in. It's over the internet, so you just click that link. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada, India, well, same thing, or wherever you're at.
So if anybody's interested, though, go and look at Sparky's video he made. He made a video breaking down the madman of Oklahoma there. Chado, what's going on, man? You going to behave tonight, or are you going to be crazy and go nuts? What are you going to do tonight?
You can't be dropping all them F-bombs.
I'm good, brother. I
No
stopped
cussing?
drinking. Yeah. So no cursing, no drinking. Just chilling, bro.
Yeah, and Sword and Spirit, I'd love for you to jump on and just show us who you are, because that name Sword kind of reminds me of somebody. So I'm just curious. You wouldn't be him, would you? You're on a cosplayer that runs around the OBL pretending to slay a dogman, do you? Be unfortunate if you were hiding.
I get a bunch of swords, but they're all real.
Yeah, me too. Well, his swords are real. That dude's swords are real. He's just they're very dangerous because he's not very strong, and so him trying to throw those around, Okami, the Okami says, "Happy Spooktober, everyone!" And remember, folks, we're on the air every night of the entire month of October.
Mm-hmm.
That is our gift to you. We are doing this every Monday. We're going to be doing this, and then Tuesday is the Patreon show. And if you're on the Patreon, you get a swag bag, of course. Wednesday is we retail encounters, and then Thursday we have the members only on YouTube. It's a YouTube exclusive, right? And then Friday we have the interviews. We're doing the interviews, and I call them discussions. We have people that come on and tell their encounters and discussions, and it's just them, And then on Saturday we're doing the shorts, and then Sunday we do the live stream again. So yeah, every day in October, the entire month, we're going to bust our ass. I was going to take a vacation out to the McDonald Observatory this month, but I decided to postpone until next month so I could do this for you guys. You're welcome. You're welcome. And plus, the haters, don't forget them. Pray for them, even though they say that it's a sin to pray for us. Pray for them. And remember, this is their life, folks. Everybody here works, and we have lives outside of this. They do not. Bless their hearts. So what they do is focus on us, and all of their energy and attention goes to us. So remember, kind of like a dog, the dog, it's only part of your life. You're that dog's whole life. So these dogs, this is all they have is us, right? We're their whole lives. Completely focused on us. They don't work. They don't talk about their children, their grandchildren. They don't do anything. Their entire focus is on us. But if it keeps them out of the meth, that's worth it. It's worth it. So just remember that, folks.
I don't get it, bro. How are they so focused on the paranormal, but they got nothing? Like if they dedicate all this time, yeah, dude, if they dedicate all their time and effort into the paranormal, and yet they got nothing, dude. All they got is like hatred.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense at all.
Nothing. If I had the family life that they have, like some of them have grandchildren, you would think I'd be I'd be spending time with them. Well, and I work, you work all the time.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Right now I'm driving through Nebraska, bro. Drove through Oklahoma earlier. It feels like I haven't moved spots. Like I'm on the treadmill or something. It's just flat out here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I've been kind of like asking people, like collecting stories wherever I go and stuff, because I move around a lot. And I got to talk to one of the mechanics, and he told me a story about his granddaughter. How I don't know, that straight up made all the hair on my back and arms stand up. But his granddaughter was like 3 years old, and she would always tell like the parents, like, hey, I saw Gigi, or what was it? I forgot what she called him. The man, I forgot what she called him. But she's like, I keep seeing this man in my room, and they're all like, that's not possible. Like basically she's saying that she would see her late grandfather around. She never met her late grandfather, but she kept telling everybody that she kept seeing him. And then a few months later, they go over to the dude's mom's house, or no, it's his wife's house. They go to her house, and she's all like, hey, look, Gigi, that's the man that I keep seeing in my room. And she points at the wall, and it's her late grandfather. And this is like years later. She's like 7 or 8, like 3 or 4 years later, she calls her mom, and she tells her mom to call Gigi, like her grandma. So she calls her. It's kind of late. It's already like 11 at night. And they're all like, tell her to look at the sky. And then like she goes out and looks at the sky. She's like, you see the moon? And she's all like, yeah. She's like, you see that big bright star next to it? And she's like, yeah. She's like, that's Gigi. she told me to tell you to say hi to you. And every time you look at the sky, you see that, that's him, to not be sad. Like, whoa, it's insane.
Mm.
But yeah.
So
one
this
of the
was
stories
a
that he told me-
child that was telling them, like sending a message to them.
Yeah, I wish I told them about the show too. I was like, bro, like they do live call-ins on Monday and stuff. You should call in and tell that story, because it literally made all the hair on my back and my arms stand up. And yeah.
Where was this at? What location? Like the city?
It was in Colorado Springs, there where I live.
Mm.
I finally got tasked out, like in my own, like something local, because I usually have to drive out a few hours or to the next state. But yeah, it's in Colorado Springs. I got his phone number. I'll see if I can get in touch with him.
I mean, if they have more information, if it's just that story there, we just heard it.
No, I told it like the way that I told it. No, the way that I told it, it wasn't really as great.
So you basically
But,
ruined it for us.
Yeah, I did, bro. Sorry. But
Well,
yeah,
even that story, that's a ghost story. I mean, because not a lot of people have relatives that come back to actually let you know they came back. You know, and when you do have that, they bounce in and out, and that's a cool story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have those stories, Sparky. You'd be shocked.
That
One in
ain't your
two
grandpa.
people in America have seen a ghost.
Yeah, so my friend, so the house that I grew up in, it's in it's in El Paso in the 2nd Ward. Oh yeah, in El Paso, Texas. So we ended up moving out of my childhood home. Nobody lived there for years. You know, it was kind of abandoned. So like we used to break into our own house with our friends and go party there, you know. And this one time, I don't know, it was a Sunday. I wasn't there, but my brothers and my cousin, they stayed there Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday they went to go get something to eat or something. I don't know what they were doing, but one of my friends went over to try to look for them, and the dude says he saw a real tall man with like a white button up, and he said he had his shirt tucked in and his hair to the side, like very, very well groomed. That's how, like, he said the guy had blue eyes and stuff. And this guy described my grandfather to me, like how he looks in one of his photos. But he says he kept asking him where we were, and he was just staying quiet. He was just like staring at him. And then he's all like, "Hey, well, I'm Peter and Alan's friend, and I'm just wondering if they're around." And he says he just kept staring at him, and like something about him just kind of like spooked him. He's like, "All right, well, you have a nice night," and he left. He's like, "Well, whatever, dude, I'll come back." And I don't know. Next time he saw my brothers, he told them, "Hey, man, who's that man standing outside you guys' house? This is what he looked like." And he's all like, "Yeah, bro, there's nobody there like that. Like, he just described my grandfather. He's like, that house is like, you know, it's abandoned, bro. Like, we just go there to party." He's all like, that's when it hit him. He's like, "What? Like, who was that?"
Mm.
So, and my grandfather was a certain way. He didn't like anybody coming over. He would just stare at people whenever somebody came over and greeted him, you know, try to strike up a conversation with him. Like, if he didn't know you, like, you had zero business being there, he would just ignore you. So, yeah, it kind of adds up. But he had this weird obsession with like brushing his teeth. He used to brush his teeth like 4 or 5 times a day, and he would bang his toothbrush up against the sink. And I never realized that I actually took up that same habit, you know, of banging my toothbrush against the sink. And it didn't dawn on me what that sound was until like I joined the army. But I remember I used to hear like clink, 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 clink. He used to bang his toothbrush 5 times on the sink every time. And even after he passed away, I would hear it, like just hear clink, 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 clink whenever I was alone. And then later, like I was in basic training, bro. I was brushing my teeth and I banged it up against the sink 5 times. But I remember I was like, oh, my grandfather used to love to brush his teeth. He used to love brushing his teeth. And then when I hit my toothbrush on the sink 5 times, it made that same sound. And then boom, it was like, it all hit me. Like I was like, all those times that I heard that sound when nobody was around, I was like, could that have been him? I don't know.
So, do you think that your grandfather he died when you were still alive, right?
Yeah, and like when he passed, I remember I still have memories of like when I was like 2 years old, like when I was a baby.
Mhm.
I still have memories. The day that he died, I remember he used to take us to the store every morning. He used to take us to the store like every morning. And I remember that morning he was just he was like puking up blood. He was dying, man. I don't know. He was just puking up blood, and my mom was like, "We need to get you to the hospital." Like her and my dad are crying. My grandmother's crying. And he's like, "No, like I'm gonna take my grandchildren to the store." He's like, "I don't care. I'm gonna die right here." And I remember he grabbed me and my brother. Like I was crying, man, and like I was scared because he was like trying to walk, but he was just throwing up blood. And then my mom came and snatched us. She took us back to the house. And then he actually walked to the store because it wasn't that far. And he grabbed some beer, dude, some 40s. And he was just sitting in his chair, just drinking, like puking up blood. And then I remember I wanted to go say, like, I was worried. I was scared for my grandpa. I wanted to go hug him. But my mom wouldn't let us out. She was holding me, like my two brothers were on the bed crying. And I remember she was just holding on to me because I wanted to, like, to get away to go, like, say, I knew it was then. I wanted to say bye to him. And I remember she wouldn't let me go. And then, like, I was just screaming and crying. And then the entire house was rattling. All the pipes, like, I remember the gas lines were like, the gas lines burst. You could just smell gas. You could hear it hissing. The fire department was already there. And they got everybody out of the house. And then he passed away. And then, like the next day they sent people there to check on the lines, to make sure it was safe. And there was nothing wrong with the house.
Hmm.
That's
So
very
I don't know. Yeah, but that house was literally like, it was like almost like there was an earthquake, and like all the lines on the house were like rattling. You could hear them like knocking on the wall, and you could smell the gas and everything. But yeah,
So let's move around here. Let's see. Scott, you didn't say anything last time. You just kind of were here, but do you have something to talk about? I know last night or the night, whatever night it was, you said something about having a black-eyed kids encounter or something.
I had a crazy dream.
Your sound is really bad.
Okay, let me raise. Is that better? Is that better?
Much. We can hear you, but it's really muffled. It's like it's not real good.
Yeah. Let's see if I get closer. I don't have the earbuds, so I'm just using this speaker, off this desktop here.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that working better? Is that any better, or is it still?
It's pretty muffled.
Still muffled. So I'm just wondering, how can I increase the volume or clear this up?
I'd have to ask my tech, and he's not in. I don't know where he went, but he stepped out for a minute. If Anthony comes back, I can get him to do, because he has all that stuff over there, and if I mess with it, he gets upset. So
yeah, I have my volume all the way up, and trying to see if there's anything else here. Yeah, I've run into that problem lately. I don't know if it's the certain servers for chat, like you have that duck or whatever. I'm just wondering.
Do you have a microphone?
No, it's just, it's straight, in there. So I think I might have to add that microphone.
Hey, Blondes and Booze. They have a new channel now too. I'm not real sure the name of it.
So yeah, the speaker. Yeah, I just, it worked before, I guess. So recently, it's kind of
Well, we can hear you, and Andrew just made a good point. You sound fine. We can hear you. It's just real muffled, and some people might get annoyed by it. But go ahead and just say what you got to say.
Yeah, so I have a crazy dream that happened. God, it must have been 5 years ago, I think. And I want your audience to be the judge of this because it's a dream that it was a continuation dream. Have you heard about listening to people that had dreams that would continue the second night?
Yeah, I've had some people tell me some wild stuff about dreams. I mean, you name it: lucid dreaming, very vivid, wild dreams. Yeah, you name it.
Well, this is like a continuation where you asked the second night, like So here, let me just go through the dream real quick, and then you can you guys can give me a response of what you think. So I was laying in bed, and one of my biggest questions in life is like when babies are aborted or children die at a really young age, what happens to them? So that was my question.
Bailey.
When that happens, the energy remains in a chaotic state,
Hello?
and it can be used for hexes and like dark rituals and stuff.
Hang on one second, Bailey. If you were making a lot of noise, you're not now, but you were. So, guys, if you mute the microphones while someone else is talking.
Oh, sorry, bro. My bad.
We'll get to you in a minute here.
Sorry, bro. My bad.
Yeah, that's fine, Bailey. So, Scott, your question now. Here's something weird. I'm going to tell you a story, and this is a weird story that happened to me. I had a friend who we're cool now, but he kind of went off the deep end for a while, and he really did. And I mean, he admitted as much, and he had some issues with me and multiple other friends of mine. And I'm not going to say his name, but he's had some issues with a lot of friends of mine. And so if his name comes up, I don't have a problem with him, but other people will be like, yeah, that guy, whatever. He had a son that passed away. He was almost going to be born, and that son was with a Persian girl. He's a Caucasian, white guy, blue eyes, and he had this child that was almost born, and then there was a miscarriage. A very bad thing happened. And so that child did not come into the world. Years later, I'm going to tell you, this is weird. I did not know about this child. This is a weird story. And I've never told this on the show because it's kind of a sensitive subject, but you brought it up. I'll talk about it. I had issues with this guy. This guy was practicing shamanism, and he was really getting into it. And I believe, well, I don't believe, I know that he came into my house on the astral plane. When I confronted him about it later on, when we were talking, making amends, I asked him if that had happened. He said yes, and he was just learning how to do it. And his anger was all focused on me and a couple other people. So he came into my house and tried to talk to me and got escorted out. There was no violence or anything like that. But I also told him, I said, you had somebody that kind of looked like you violently attack me while I was asleep. And I woke up to this person trying to assault me, physically assault me. I'm talking like punching me. It was physical. It was real. And then they were gone. It was like boom, boom, And Anthony's back. Do you remember this? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Maybe you don't remember right off the top, but you'll.
No, I remember. I just had to turn my mic on.
Yeah, do you remember that incident?
Yeah, and then y'all had a conversation in person about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a conversation about it in person. We went to dinner and we squashed it. And I buried the hatchet. A couple of my friends didn't. They were still angry with him. My brother's still upset with him. They don't talk. But this person had some problems. And he had some attachments, and definitely when somebody has that kind of stuff going on, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is bizarre, and the audience can make draw its own conclusion. You can say what you want and think what you want. It's a free country for now. And I told him, I said, you had somebody attack me shortly after your little visit. Who was that? Because they kind of looked like him with dark hair and sort of Middle Eastern features. I didn't know who it was. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, I think that was my son. Now, he had 2 sons at that time. And I'm like, you have 2 sons. I know them. I've known the one son since he was born because we were close friends for years. And I said, and I've met your other son when he was like 6. And I said, this was not one of your sons. And he says, no. He's like, I used to go out with this girl, and I had a child that was, it was a miscarriage. But it was really bad because he was almost born. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, like maybe the further along. When I told him how old the person looked, it matched up to how old this child would have been. And he told me, he says, since I've been studying the shamanism, he's like, I realized that he's been growing up alongside me spiritually. Now, I can't say 100% of that is true, but I know what happened to me. And this dude, this child that looked like him but was bigger, stockier, and Middle Eastern looking, he put his hand like underneath my rib. You know how you put that is a painful thing. Mm-hmm. And he lifted me up partway off the bed, and he was doing like this jiu-jitsu. It was like I was fighting with this guy. And what's interesting is my friend he's a jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. And I said, what, maybe did this guy go train with you? I kind of said it, and he's like, well, there were a couple times I was on the mats. That's what the jiu-jitsu, BJJ, they call it. He said I was on the mats. He goes, and I got up, and one time I was lightheaded, really tired, and I saw him standing there. So he was going with him, observing him, and was very protective of him. And when we had these issues, so like two nights, I think it was, after I had the argument with him, which seems like a dream, but it's not, them coming into your house. And people will do that. And people that in your everyday life will come into your house or your apartment. I don't give a crap what people say. It does happen. People will leave their bodies, and they won't really remember it because it's an alternate state of consciousness. And they'll go into that state of consciousness, and they will not know. They will not know what they talked about or what they said to you or anything after it's over. That's happened to me a few times with people. Can you mute that? So it's one of those things where there's a lot of people that have experienced these kind of things. And so, yeah, that's my experience with that. And I've never talked about that on the show, because it is kind of a sensitive thing. His son he would have been around that age when that happened. And I don't want to go too far into it, and I'm not going to say his name, but because there's some issues there. And
do you remember what he was practicing? Did he tell you?
It was Buddhism. It was actually like a mixed bag of the occult. It was Buddhism. And the thing about him too, I love him. He's my friend. I forgive him for the things. But one of the things that really aggravates me about him is that he has tried every religion on the planet except for Christianity. Like he's been a Muslim, he's been a Buddhist, he's practiced every single, but he just keeps missing the mark. He won't accept Christianity. Now, I haven't talked to this guy in almost 2 years now. Not because I'm mad at him or anything like that. We just drifted apart, and he hasn't contacted me. I haven't contacted him, so I don't have any really contact with him. I don't know what he's doing these days, but I hope that he's found Christ, because he seems to have. Well, you know how he is. Yeah.
But so there's Palo Mayombe and Santeria. They actually use they trap spirits and stuff. They call them muertos, like dead guys, literally. Mm-hmm. And they use them as monitoring spirits, or they can send them out to do attacks. You can pretty much have them you can command them to do anything you say. But the cost of doing that keeps growing with every, the cost of doing so grows with every request until eventually the entity asks you for big game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think he may have done it and not been cognizant of it either, because he was just starting out in that, and he could do some things. Like I witnessed him like be able to do things, you know, like he made some predictions and said things about people, and they were correct because he obviously had been going into their places, you know. I told him this too. I said, these people are going to be out of their body and they're going to hurt you, or they're going to have spirits around them that may be protecting of them. And I believe in this. People can have an ancestor that will stay on this plane and protect them, and they will literally whoop your ass. I'm not even joking. And you don't know when you're going around, when you enter into someone's domicile. Spiritual breaking and entering is against the spiritual law, just like physical breaking and entering. You are not supposed to be going into people's domiciles. One of the most terrifying stories I ever got, if y'all want to hear this one, it was a woman. I remember her name was Kathy. And she was telling me of this crazy, it's a haunted house story, really. It's just about a house she lived in. And it was terrifying. And she had all kinds of crazy stuff happen. I believe it was in not Massachusetts, Maine. So she has all this crazy stuff that was going on. Hold on one second. Krista, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just have a full house going on in here.
I
Krista
just want to
from
know
Blondes
how
and
to say
Booze.
hey to everybody. That's all.
Hey, Miss Krista.
Yeah.
It's been a long
And
time.
it's been a while, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what this woman did, and this isn't a real long drawn out thing, her stories is a really long drawn out thing that I'll eventually get to on the show. It's earmarked eventually, hopefully, probably by the end of the month. But she had an incident. She told me that she was leaving her body on a regular basis and it was scaring the crap out of her. And I said, well, are you just hanging around, you know, at your house, or where are you going? And she was entering into people's domiciles that she knew. And I told her, I said, you need to get that under control. The higher self needs to take over because something very bad could happen to you. And it did. She went to, I don't know about this one. I got to say, she went to one of her ex-boyfriends, right? Spiritual stalking. I don't know. I just kind of made a joke about it and she didn't laugh. So I think she's a decent person. I think she was just a little misguided, but she said that when she went into his apartment, there was something there. And she said it confirmed to me that he had an attachment and that it attacked her and chased her out off the balcony.
Oh.
And of course she goes back into her body and she wakes up and this thing is in her bedroom. So it didn't just leave her alone. After that particular incident, she started having problems with it. And it looked like a circle with a mouth and little tentacles on it. And I said, yeah, well, that's in the Arabic culture, they would call that a marid, which is a very, very dangerous jinn, a shape-shifting jinn that can do all kinds of things. And I told her,
is it like a soul eater or something?
Maybe. I don't know if that's exactly what it would be. It definitely attaches to your soul and it can do a lot of bad things. And so she said that was what she thought in her mind's eye was on her ex-boyfriend. I said, well, going into his apartment probably wasn't a good idea. But then she said that she started having all kinds of problems and then his life got better. I thought, okay, well, you took the demon off of him and it just started messing with you. And then when she would come out of her body, which she said she was doing it unwillingly. And then she started being plagued by these human spirits that were in the house and they got worse. And I said, yeah, because they'll interact. Evil people on the other side will start to work with demons. And we talked yesterday about the Reptilian Dogman connection. That doesn't mean that they're like hanging out buddy and doing drive-bys together, but they're opportunistic. And if one of them is opening up something on you like blood in the water, the other one's going to smell it and come to you. If you get bit by a tiger shark, the main threat may be the tiger shark, but there's other sharks nearby. You're in danger of them coming and taking a bite of you too.
Yeah, when she went into that dude's room, it was like that shark because she, like you said, she's doing it unwillingly, so she probably holds a lot of power that she's unaware of.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that thing was, maybe it wasn't even an attachment that was on him, or like it probably wasn't like a personal, like a monitoring spirit, but whatever it was, it saw her and it's all like, oh yeah, like look at all that energy, and it attached itself to her instead. That's hilarious. Well, not really.
Yeah, because
but,
that's what they do. Think of like Venom. You know, he would have loved to have stayed with Spider-Man because he would have been super duper strong. But I mean, he had to pick somebody else, so he chose Eddie Brock, who was physically strong. And Eddie Brock in the comic book, Eddie Brock is strong enough with the symbiote to beat the crap out of Spider-Man. So imagine
his moral compass is more blurry. So like Peter Parker would not let Venom eat all those like tasty skulls.
Yeah.
He would not. Yeah, he wouldn't let it eat all those brains.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we can't take out all the movies, we take out all the comic books, we take all that crap out, and we just go by lore. There is no way an entity would be hooked to him and just jump to her. That will not happen. It could never happen.
Yeah, it would.
You would have to
Absolutely, it would. That happens.
Yeah, bro. They feed on energy, bro. What else?
They feed on energy, not people.
On?
I think they're always looking for the bigger, better deal.
The bigger, better deal, yeah.
I'm not talking about internet knowledge. I'm just talking about lore.
Okay.
If that went from him to her, that means it was never hooked to him. It was hooked to the building.
But everyone's an individual.
But it was feeding on him. And then when she projected there in astral form, when your body is like in a pure energy state, then it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you have different cells too.
According to pure lore,
have to understand,
like you said.
No, you have to use the pure lore of for an entity to actually hook onto a person. Number one, it takes a lot of energy for them to do that, or they have to be welcomed in some way.
But
somehow.
everybody in the own right is
or not be under the grace of God, bro. Like King Solomon knew everything about these demons, and the minute he started practicing with his new girlfriend, God's grace just left him immediately. It didn't matter how long he was under God.
If Solomon had
when he
these
was
things, he
outside of
wouldn't
his
have to
grace.
have the signals to actually summon angels and demons. He wouldn't have to have those if they could just jump in.
Every single person is like a
that
You
magic
didn't need them
system.
to, no. Hold on. Now we're talking about King Solomon here. I'll explain that.
Yeah.
King Solomon didn't need them to be summoned, right?
100%.
He needed the ring to control them. Once he had Ornius or Onias, he told him, go and gather those like you, and he did. And then he told those to gather more. He didn't do it with the ring to make them gather it. That was the control mechanism, right? We don't have control over these entities, and you really don't need.
No, that was actually control, and it was summoning. It was two different things. It wasn't just control.
Yeah, he actually used the other demons to go and summon the demons. If you read it,
He had total command of them.
Solomon.
And then but when he was no longer under the grace of God, he's all these entities that he had control of suddenly turned on him, and that's why he developed all that magic system, Solomonic magic, to protect himself, because he was no longer. But it was only temporary; it was not permanent, because he was no longer under the grace of God.
I kind of understand what you're saying.
Dude, without the mercy and grace of God, you got nothing.
If you try to take it logically, and you try to take the lore for historical value, and you try to reduce all the religion, entities do not attach on people unless, number one, they're powerful enough, they have enough energy, and you know it when they do it. You have to really tick them off for them to do it. Or
I don't know, bro. I've seen people get possessed. I've literally seen somebody get possessed.
Who?
And because it's like
everybody talks about people being possessed and demons, and every time I go who, and they can't point me to a video. They can't.
I'll tell you. I can't.
So are you saying that they don't have a choice to choose to where they draw energy from?
Sometimes you don't, bro. You don't. Sometimes you don't, bro. If you're not under the grace of God, bro, they can do whatever they want with you.
Hallelujah.
True, I agree with that.
That is the truth.
Because it takes protection of Christ.
If you want to see videos, bro, I'll send you some links. It's on BitChute, bro. There's this chick.
There's a ton of videos out there of people being possessed.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I've seen a lot of them, and I debunked a lot of them. So
hold on a sec, guys. Hold on one sec. Abe CS said that when he was in Desert Storm, that all of those Iraqis, he said that the jinn would jump from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and they were becoming possessed, and they were picking up weapons, and then they were reanimating from the dead, and all sorts of crazy crap. So I've talked to Abe enough to know that this sort of thing.
Yeah, and Abe isn't the only one. There are lots of channels that I've watched.
What's that breakdance story like
I
that?
saw a whole platoon. I saw a whole platoon coming back from Afghanistan. A platoon of soldiers come back from Afghanistan, bro, and they were all like vampires. So I don't know, bro.
So you guys don't know, I'm a combat vet. I have a lot of vet friends. I have people in the Army right now that I know. I talk to.
So do I.
I understand what you guys are saying, and I'm not saying anybody is a liar at all, but I'm saying this is not that common. This is not something that every military guy sees. Yeah. This is not something that just.
Well, it's starting to become more and more common.
Yeah, but not everybody has that ability either, though, Sparky. Not everybody has the eye.
True.
I can tell you that I've seen a lot of things when I was working at a nightclub and running a nightclub for years. I would see these things moving from person to person off of their backs. And I know a lot of people that had that same ability. They did it too. They saw it too. These things will jump around. And it doesn't matter whether or not they have permission from you physically, mentally, whatever. There's a spiritual permission there. When she went and invaded that domicile, she broke a law, and that thing just followed suit. And so, yes, they can. Do you know how many people? Hold on, and do you know how many people are walking around right now? Maybe in this chat, who knows how many people who have attachments? The thing, a lot. But the word jinn means hidden.
Not a lot.
It means no. There's a lot. Trust me. It means hidden.
Jinn are a very, very rare.
No,
if you look
they're
at
not.
Where
No, they're not. Bro.
Not at all. They are not rare at all.
Jinn is
how many?
That's a catch-all term for demon. Period. Look,
if you know your lore, bro, you can have. If you know your lore, you can have up to 30,000 demons on your left sleeve.
Jinn is a very specific entity. It is not a catch-all for demons. It's a very specific entity.
Yes, it is. No, it is not a very specific entity. I can literally read to you the definition of what a jinn is. There are so many different kinds. The marid is one kind. It's a very bad one. I mean, it's an elemental of water. So there are so many different kinds of these things.
No,
yes, it is.
I mean, if you talk to a Muslim, then to them everything is a jinn. Like every paranormal phenomenon, no matter what.
It's just a regional. It's a regional title.
They call it a jinn.
I get what you're saying.
You say jinn in the Middle East. You say the demonio in Mexico. You say demon over here, and then
we should do that. We should do that. We shouldn't call him demon over here, and we shouldn't call him jinn over there. If you look at jinn, it's like saying if you say like goblin, there is like 50 things under a goblin. If you say an elf, or you say little people, or you say elemental, or you say jinn, there are 50 different varieties under that name. You guys are clumping a lot.
Okay. Let me explain something to you. No, we're not gonna get. Hold on, guys. Let's be cordial here. Okay, Sparky's a friend, but I'm gonna say this. Here is, if you just look it up on Google here, it's right here. It just says jinn are supernatural beings from Arabian and Islamic folklore. And while they have a vast number of types, the most common classifications include fiery ifrit. That is the fire, rebellious and malevolent shaitan. That's Satan. The primordial intelligent marid. The shape-shifting graveyard-dwelling ghoul. And there's different names for it, right? And the versatile desert-inhabiting Jan. Now, the Jan are actually a precursor race. I know my Levantian folklore. I studied it extensively. And I've worked with Arabs a lot, and I know their cultures. And in fact...
So they are like elementals, but they're not elementals.
No, they're not.
They are like them.
There are so many different... In every... Hold on. Everybody just... Okay, hold on, guys. Every Middle Eastern country in the Levant has multiple different kinds of the jinn, and they have different names for them. The Adhadit, the Farid, the Efrit. There's all these different kinds, right? And they do different things. There is a multitude of them. But the average Arab, Bedouin, or Berber, or any of those Saharan peoples or the Middle Eastern people, that's two different places, they will always tell you it's a jinn, it's a jinn, it's a jinn. All my friends from Pakistan all the way to Tunisia will tell you that, because that folklore is there. That is what it is.
Can I tell you why?
Go ahead. I may not agree, but go ahead.
It's just like this panel and multiple other panels I have been on call everything a demon. When they have no proof it's a demon, it's a spirit, and it did something they thought might be bad, so they called it a demon. Now, if you want a spirit, or if you want an entity to really act up, call it a jinn, call it a demon, call it something that it doesn't want to be called. And it will show you exactly what you want to see. Because, like, you want that, I'll go there. So it's the same kind of, it's a different culture, but it's the same kind of culture we have, where people call it a demon. It's not really that. It's a catch-all.
Yeah, like what's his name? Aleister Crowley. He used to call them disembodied intelligences, just to generalize it, because they all have level of intelligence.
And there are here's the mistake, though, and I think Sparky, you're defending something that needs to be said. There are a lot of people who do not believe in a human disembodied spirit, because Christianity tells them that that's not the case, because we are told that they are demons that masquerade as spirits of the deceased. That doesn't mean that all spirits are demons, because it doesn't say that all ghosts and spirits, whatever, that they are all demons. It says we are to test the spirits, right?
So actually in the Bible, it talks about good spirits, and it says you shall not befriend an evil spirit. In multiple different verses, it talks about evil spirits. You shall not actually befriend them. You should not talk to them. Be wary of a spirit that comes to you. But then it also talks about good spirits. Even in the Bible, it shows you there is a variety. There's a whole ladder between good spirits and really bad ones. Per the Bible.
So can I say something really quick?
Principalities. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
So I've just been sitting back listening to the discussion, and I've done ghosts a long time, and I do believe that you're right. Like whenever I've done like private home cases, people say, "Oh, I have a demon in my house," and just because their door opens or shuts or whatever, So it's our job to explain to them, I don't believe it's a demon. This was a human spirit. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, but going back on the subject of like the jinn jumping into people. Regular spirits can do that too, because I've witnessed it. Brandy and I, we had a private case, and we watched it happen. And what it was doing was the people who are more in their faith and I guess stronger, it would not jump into, but it picked on the weak. It picked on one with some mental issues. Another guy had just had a heart attack. Things like that. It was picking on the weak. And I don't believe that was any type of demonic entity or a jinn or anything like that. I truly believe it was just a nasty human spirit. And, so that's just my 2 cents on all this.
If I could follow up on that, what I'm saying is most people think all spirits can just jump into or tag everybody and get it. Like they're just going to go there. They can't. But if you have one that actually is powerful enough, they can. Or if you have a lot of people like you're talking about that has illnesses, they have the flu, they shouldn't be there to begin with, because they're actually low in their defensive.
Their frequency.
They can. Yeah, they can. But again, it's rare. It doesn't happen all the time. Like what people say is like, a spirit's just going to jump into somebody and they're just going to tag along with them. That doesn't happen a lot. It's very rare. It takes either a very strong spirit or it takes somebody that is very weakened at the time. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and let me say this. Okay, so in the Bible, there's one particular passage here, and I wanted to make sure that I got it. Hold on one second.
Don't feel bad. I have to look up the verses too. I can remember what it says, but I have to look them up.
Okay, yeah, but I wanted to make sure here. I got something going on. So, and it's First Chronicles 10, 13, 14, and it talks about Saul's death, and it attributes it to what he did against the word of God. And so he consulted a medium in Endor to talk to the prophet Samuel. And they do make contact. He does talk to Samuel, to his ghost. So there are, but it strongly discourages that. And it's a very simple thing why you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it because you don't know who or what you're talking to. You don't know who or what. It's like a phone line that calls one way and the other line, it's anybody can pick it up. Mm-hmm. So it's you connecting with who or whatever. It's like going deep sea fishing and you just throw it out there. You want to catch a marlin, but you may get a blue shark. You don't know what you're going to get. That's the thing. And we in a three-dimensional body don't have the comprehension or the understanding to really navigate in the spirit. You can say, hey, this is my experience. This is what I've seen. And I can tell you this, spirits will follow people. They will attach to people and they don't need to be, it doesn't like that. I'm telling you, when this woman went into that apartment, that followed her 100%. I think it just saw an easier mark. There was a confused woman that was wandering around out of her body. And it saw that she was strong enough to do this. So it's like she had all this power, but didn't know how to control it or harness it or use it or direct it. So it just went with her. And it decided, oh, this is somebody that I could harass and manipulate. And you got to remember this too. Demons, they're like bacteria. Now, if you know what I mean by that is like you'll have bacteria on your skin. Territorial. You know, one way to combat bad bacteria, and the most probably important way is what?
Gut health.
Yeah, gut health, because those are good bacteria. Yep. So if you have the good flora and fauna in your body, the bad bacteria don't take hold because the bacteria is like, dude, I'm here. This is my spot. What are you doing? And so the bad bacteria comes and they get got. Pretty much it. Yeah. You know, it's a hood mentality when it comes to the bacteria. They don't play. It's like, we're not sharing space, bro. And they will kill.
Can I respond to that, though?
Go ahead.
So I get what you're saying, but I get you hear like all these accounts every day. You're researching this, you're talking to Birdie like every day. A normal person every day does not have this. They don't have attachments, they don't have possessions, they don't deal with demons, they don't do anything. It's rare. Like so rare, it's impossible.
It's not rare at all.
But the problem is like people that research this all the time, they're like, why? I know of these like 20 people I talk to.
Yeah, I'm very cognizant of
okay. That's cool. There's 8 billion people in the world, and you talk to 20 of them. Number one. Number two, people confuse attachments, especially in their house or around their house, with bad entities or what have you. And a lot of times, if you believe in the Fae, it's probably Fae. It could be loved ones and tricksters, people that know you that come back, and you're getting scared by it, but it means no harm. Most of these people are telling you these stories did not get hurt. Most of them got scared because they saw a dark shadow, they saw something, they didn't know what was going on. What I'm saying is most stories get blown out of proportion because that person got scared and how they're reliving it. It could be a good spirit, it could be Fae, it could be a lot of different things. And like you just said, is like demonic. Is like demonic is that is a rare thing in the spiritual world. That is a it's never been human, but it likes to mimic human behavior. That's what defines it between like the Fae and nature of spirits and stuff like that. That's why demonic is different. It's a very small part of the spiritual world. And so I think what I'm saying is like we should, as investigators, try to figure out what we're talking about so we're not using phrase words that will scare people that not want to go out. Because I guarantee you, every time I go out, somebody's like, are you worried about demonic possession or attachments? I'm like, you know how rare that is? I have thousands of friends that go out twice a week and they've never got anything.
Yeah, you don't know that.
One guy got something that was he plays with the back of his head.
Something else really quick. So my thoughts too, even like, you know, as far as like, you know, I guess demonic possession, what we see on TV, you know, the priest and all that. Okay. But I even feel like even maybe like drug addiction or, you know, different sicknesses are a form of possession, you know, to bring people down, you know,
depression.
things like that. Yeah. So, I mean, am I saying that it's a full-fledged, demonic possession that they're going to have to be exorcised? No, I'm not saying that, but I feel like there's something there to it.
Spiritual warfare.
That's something we have to realize. It's like that's a religious barrier where people think it's like, being depressed or having chemical dependency or what have you could be demonic. Other religions go, that's on you. You made those choices. That's totally on you. So that's also one of those where it depends on your religious status of what you believe.
Well, off the top of my head here, I've been able to write down at least 12 different entity types that the Bible talks about. So there's rudiments and elements, where the elemental spirits. There's the horse leech, which is a type of vampiric entity that sucks your blood. There's principalities, powers, rulers, spiritual wickedness in high places, unclean spirits, demons, spirits of the dead, both good and bad. There's fallen angels, and the vain imaginations, the evil spirits that have no other purpose but to whisper evil in your ears. And I mean, that's just off the top of my head. So there's a lot of them.
The monitor ones are like the most common.
What, Shadow?
Monitor spirits, the ones that keep an eye out and share the information with the hive mind.
Yeah, and monitoring spirits. Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah. And if you go out into the field and you come back and you say, well, I was in a very haunted place. There's cryptids there. There's this, there's that. I bet you anything that place is not only just full of cryptids or whatever that you're looking for. It's going to be infected with things that are very negative, very dark things. A lot of Bigfoot researchers are learning the hard. Hold on, Chato. A lot of Bigfoot researchers are learning the hard way that this is a very spiritual subject, and that these things are very interdimensional. And people don't like to hear it. They just get real aggravated, and they throw a fit when you tell them that. Now, here to touch on what you said, and I'm not insulted. I mean, it's a debate here, and we can do that without having any kind of hard feelings. I know I'm not, but I respectfully disagree when you said that. Well, I'm talking to 20 people, so I think everybody's like that. I'm very cognizant of who is aware of what's happening to them and who is not. Now, when I've interviewed people, and many, many different people, I've had people that say, yeah, my house is absolutely haunted. They'll have 3 people that are screaming to the top of their lungs that their house is just full of nonsense, crazy stuff. And what I mean by nonsense is the spirits, what they're doing is just ridiculous. Then you'll have one person that's in complete and utter denial. I always go to this one case, and Anthony, you were there along with Dee. And when we walked into that place, it wasn't about Dogman, Bigfoot, whatever the hell. There was poltergeist activity from Jump Street. Like when we walked in, there was a blender it was one of those ninjas, and the lid flew up, and I'm like, what? And the dryer the washer was bouncing around, and there was nothing in it. It calmed down, it settled down, right? And then they went to tell us what was going on, and there was a plethora of things happening there, including what seemed to be some sort of Dogman werewolf-like entity that the little boy was drawing pictures of. Now, these were friends of friends. I didn't know them personally, but my cousins actually knew them. They were friends of my cousins. And the guy there, he was a drinker. And he absolutely was in utter denial of every bit of this phenomena. What was so telling and actually sad about that was that it was insulting to me. I was like, sir, I walk in and I just witnessed. I just witnessed what just happened. He said, well, there's like these shadows, he talked just like that too. He's not one of my favorite people, but he's a very annoying guy, but he was just very uncooperative, and he insulted his wife, his children, his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law's girlfriend. He was insulting of everybody until it happened to him. A couple months, that was in October of that year. A couple of months later, he believes he was nearly killed. And then he wanted to talk to me and called me in the middle of the night and tried to get me to talk to him about it and whatever. I said, I don't have the time right now or the patience to deal with you. And I thought he had been drinking. I realized that he had really had something happen. They took a photo of the door. Now, for all I know, he could have kicked it in, but the footprints, that was another thing. And they were very large, werewolf looking. If you were to say it's a werewolf, that's what it looked like. It would look like a dog man, whatever. But I told him, I said, well, whether you believe it or not, there were several people there his brother-in-law's friend that saw it jump over a hay bale. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening there. I was like, you were in complete and utter denial, even though you claimed that you saw a shadow move around the wall in the bathroom.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Just electrical problems.
So I said, and you poo-pooed everything, and you stubbornly refused to move into town with your wife and go to your mother-in-law's. And he gave me every excuse in the book. I said, then look what happened. Right? That is, to me, that is somebody who I believe he had an attachment, 100%. And he was somebody that would argue that nothing was going on. There was nothing wrong.
Let me explain a little bit about why I said that, so you understand. I wasn't trying to insult you at all. I
didn't think you were. I didn't take it that way.
I'm an ex-cop. Everybody knows it. I had to tell cops after they get around 10 years or so. Every time they go to a mobile home that looks like crap, they're like, "Yeah, that guy's on meth. He's on heroin. He's probably selling stuff. He's probably stole stuff." Because they have gone to a trailer so many times, their mind is now tainted that always happens. And you have to go, no, it might be just a dude down on his luck living in a trailer home that looks like crap. I find the same thing I found in law enforcement with paranormal and cryptid people, where the more they research, the more they say it's common, the more they say it's all the time. And it's like, did you think that 10 years ago? You didn't. It's only after you kept on researching and had people all over the world talking to you where you're like, holy crud, I have all these stories coming in. Therefore, you get tainted because you now have all these stories coming in. You're actually talking to so many people where you think it happens all the time. But if you go to your next door neighbor, he's kind of like, I've never seen anybody possessed. I've never heard anybody about having attachments. I've never had anything in my house.
You obviously didn't grow up with Mexicans.
I have, actually.
But not the family, no. You haven't.
Yes, I have. I grew up on a farm. Yes. They're awesome, and boy, they are superstitious as heck. Holy crud.
But not in the hood, right? Not in the hood?
No, from like Mexico.
That's a little different.
Hispanics from Mexico that came up.
So my point, though, that I was trying to make there, Sparky, was that this man, even though he was in the middle of a hotbed of activity, he refused to believe that anything was happening. Because he believed, he thought that would make it a reality. But the reality was that he was in the middle of it. And it cost him everything. Yeah. In the end, it ended up costing him his marriage. And he went and got help, and he's no longer a drinker from what my cousin was telling me, but that doesn't matter. The damage is done. There's a lot of people who will not recognize or know or understand, though, what you just said. You kind of answered your own question in the way that, well, not really a question, but, it answers what you were saying. It's people who start to research this stuff. They start to realize how common it is and how much these spirits do actually affect us in our day-to-day life, and how much they are a part of our lives. Because whether you want to admit it or not, they are all around us at all times. And people who have the eye,
agreed,
they almost go crazy. I mean, I know that they have it because there has been spiritual activity around my apartment, my house, whatever, and someone will come in with the eye and they'll describe to me exactly what it looks like and what I've seen. And I've talked to some of these people. There was one lady from San Antonio, and oh my gosh, I felt terrible for her. She came over to my house. She saw there were multiple entities in that house down in South Austin. My brother's writing a book about it, and I'm helping him. But because we're kind of going back and forth, just interviewing people that stayed with us. The thing that she saw that really scared her, was something that I had personally witnessed. I mean, I say the first thing she saw was just like, that was abhorrent already. But she saw a couple other things. So I told her, I said, imagine now, you saw maybe a quarter of what is going on in this place. And it's not like something that happens all the time. Now, I don't doubt that they're around all the time, but I think that they're doing other things, or they're harassing other people, or whatever the hell it is that they're doing. But it wasn't a Amityville Horror. We didn't run out of the house in the middle of the night with the blood on the walls or whatever. No, that is a fictionalized or condensed version of what went on. Because in these movies and stories, what they'll do is they'll take all of the encounters and shove them into, a 2-hour block. And we do that here at PRT. You'll take all of their encounters and we'll squish it together So, but this may go on for years. And these are just the highlights of the encounters that we're talking about, because some of the people have so much material that you can't even tell it all. Now, Dick, we've been recording with Sean. He's an individual who has a lot of different material about a lot of different stuff. But if you were to squeeze it all together and not let him tell the whole thing and break it down and everything else, you could condense it into an ABC TV special, you know, for a couple of hours.
It's a sequence of events. You know,
yeah, and it'll look like he look like he, you know, one minute he's a teenager having, and the next minute he's 35 and, you know, he's running out of a house screaming, and it's two hours long, right? But in reality, it's not like that. It'll go months. And I even became of the opinion that this thing was seasonal. Like they would take a vacation during certain times of the year and then come back and start messing around again. And I said, okay, here we go. Because I could go 2 or 3 months and I wouldn't really notice anything, or maybe my mind would just shut off to it. Because I got to where I could just ignore it and shut it off. I would hear voices, noises, things like that. And I'd just be like, do my, you know. So you go into that kind of like robot mode where if you've ever had a job that's very monotonous, I know I have, and you just kind of like, at the end of the day, I can't tell you what the hell I did for 8 hours. I don't even know what I did. I just went into work mode and I got it over with and I did what I had to do and I punched out. And you did that day in and day out, right? Wash, rinse, repeat. You don't think about this stuff. And then you go home to this house. And I remember one night after being extremely exhausted from working all day and working, I think it was 16 hours, I laid down to go to sleep and this thing started messing with me. And it just went on. And the next day I felt terrible. And I told my brother, I said, well, I think this thing is back. And he said, yeah, something was messing with me last night. You know, his room had a little different energy and weird stuff would happen. What causes that? What makes it come back like that? What was causing it to show up at that time? I don't know. But I know that these entities, they don't operate under the time and space that we do. And you can't really pinpoint or figure out what their reasoning is at times, right? You just don't know.
Yeah, you'd have to be able to peek into the fourth dimension or something to know why.
It's kind of easy if you look in the lore. If you live in a house, you don't leave your house for a week then come back, or you don't leave your house for a month and come back. Spirits that are here. They might roam around, but they're always here. There's only one entity in lore that actually will leave for a while and then come back and mess with you. And they're when you upset them, they're really buttheads. And those are elementals. Those are the only ones in lore that will come into a house, mess with you, then leave with nothing going on and coming back. The rest of them.
Well, I actually disagree with that statement too.
Can I say something here? The King James book on demonology describes these types of entities. And he goes through dozens of different types of different demons and spirits and this, that, and the other thing. And he describes one that leaves and goes away for a time and comes back at specific times for a specific reason. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
You are correct. If
you and in the Bible it talks about how
you put it over to Fae and you put it over to elementals, everything in there crosses straight over. We're talking about
what happens if you cast out an unclean spirit according to Jesus, right? What happens? It goes, finds a place to hang out for a while, and then it comes back, and it will come back with friends.
With a gang.
It comes back with, with 9. It says it comes back with 9 more powerful, more nasty than itself.
Because
7, Chata.
Yeah, 7. And here's the thing, too. Like, if you ever dealt with, like, ethnic gangs like I have, I mean, you'll get into it with them. They're not just going to leave and be, okay, right. Some people will be like, yeah, I'm going to come back blasting. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I had the displeasure of dealing with a Southeast Asian gang, and they came back with numbers. Each one of them brought several people.
Yeah, it's like if our guy doesn't win, we all jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I have a personal story about something similar like that. You want me to tell it?
Go ahead.
All right. So when I turned 18, man.
Bye, Krista.
I gotta go to work tomorrow. See y'all.
Okay, I'll see you. Thanks for stopping in.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Krista.
Right.
Yeah, when I turned 18, I remember I got off work, man. Well, I couldn't wait to get off work because all my friends were already hanging out. It was a Friday. And they were like, yeah, bro, we got beer and we got, everything else. We'll be waiting for you. So I was all excited, bro. I got off work. I went home. I changed. I got ready. And then I went to hang out. And, by the time I got there, everything was gone. you know, like no more beer or anything, whatever. So I was like, you know what? At least I get to hang out with my friends, you know? So I was just there hanging out with my buddies. And one of my other friends was in his tent because it's on the desert it's under an overpass. And he's in his tent the whole time. He's telling me to shut up, to keep it down because he's sleeping and blah, blah, blah. I was like, bro, I don't give a fuck. Like, we're out here. I'm sorry. I was like, I don't give a damn, bro. We're out here. Like, we're just having a good time, dude. We're partying. Like, I don't know what's up with you, bro. And then, like, he didn't say anything. So we're there and we're just, you know, chatting it up. And he comes out of his tent again. This time, like, he's all heated, bro. Like, he wants to fight me. So I was like, bro, look, I don't care, like, what you got going on, bro. But if you want to fight, let's fight. So I was taking off my little, you know, my little studs off my stud earrings off my ears. And he's like, oh, you think you're hot shit, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, he just clocks me, dude. This dude's got, like, little pillow hands because it's not the first time it's not the first time I fought this dude. He hits me, and then we end up fighting. We're, like, rolling around the floor. Because we're rolling around the sand, bro. We had a fire going, or they had a fire going earlier. So, like, the coals were still live. Like, it's really red. This dude's pinned me. This dude's, like, on top of me, pinning me down. And, like, these coals are, like, they're, like, a few inches away from me. And I was like, look, dude, there's, like, live coals right next to us. Like, let's stop fighting. Let's go over there and fight. Nah, this dude tries to move me over, bro, to the coals to burn me. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to let him do that. So I pull him in and I punch him and I I roll over and he lands on top of them. And, like, part of me is like, my first reaction was like, oh, my friend's, like, burning his ass off. You know, he's in there burning. So I was like, I got to help him. But then I thought about it. I was like, this dude just tried to do the same to me. So I put my palm on his face and I try to ram the back of his head into it. And he stuck his elbow in there. Dude, this guy charred all the skin and muscle off his elbow, bro. And he's like, this dude's all like, his uncle had just got out of prison. And he's all like, his uncle's pretty hardcore too. He's like, we're going to hit you up and blah, 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 and this and that. And I was like, dude, I don't care. I'll be waiting for you. And he leaves, bro. He leaves because we're in the desert, right? We're like a mile and a half away from the apartments where I used to live. He leaves, bro. And then everybody's like, what was that, bro? I was like, you know what? I don't know, dude. We're just fighting. You know how this guy, you know, his name's Raul. I was like, you know how Raul gets, bro? I guess it's just time for his, like, seasonal ass beating, you know? So we're, like, laughing, and then we hear, like, coyotes and stuff off in the distance. And then we see Raul walking back because he's scared of coyotes, dude. And he's like, hey, man, let's talk, and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, let's talk. At the same time as we're talking, he's walking back towards, he just wanted me to walk him through the desert, bro. He's scared of the coyotes. But the whole time he's threatening me, bro. He's telling me he's going to get his uncle and they're going to hit me up and all this and that. So I believed him, you know. I was like right by my apartment, dude. I was sitting on the couch with I was sitting on the couch with a knife, just waiting for somebody to come hit me up, you know. And the way that the apartment was set up, there's this giant window, and then the balcony door, it's made out of glass. And then you got I-10 like behind, or like on the other side of the desert. Anyway, whenever the traffic's driving south on I-10, you can see the headlights bounce off the back wall, like in the bathroom. And I remember I was staring into the bathroom, and top right corner in the hallway, I could see like a shadow, like somebody peeking at me, like slowly peeking. And then, like, whenever I would look at it, it wouldn't just disappear. It would slowly, like, try to hide back in the corner. And then I was like, what the heck is going on? Because I can't see the light bouncing off the back of that wall. I was like, what the heck? Why is it so dark? And then I see this thing, like, peek again. And I was like, what the heck? So I'm just staring at it, and, like, it like, hides, like, completely behind the wall this time. And then I heard, like, a door open at the end of the hallway. So I was like, oh, well, it's probably one of my brothers or my mom or something, probably going to use the restroom. So I'm just sitting there, and then I'm just like thinking about what I had just seen. I was like, why is the bathroom so dark? Why can't I see that back wall? I was like, and what the heck was that thing, like, staring at me? And like this corner, dude, it's like up, it's pretty high up. You know where like the wall meets the ceiling in most apartments, it's like 10 feet. So yeah, I was like, what the heck? And then like a few minutes went by and I was like, how come nobody has walked down that hallway? Like I heard the door open. Oh, and like before I sat on the living room, I went and checked on my brothers. I opened their doors. Dude, when I walked towards the end of the hall, my bedroom door was open. And my two younger brothers were in there. Because one of my younger brothers used to share the room with my older brother. I used to share my room with my little brother. But that day, both my younger brothers were in my room. Dude, they were in the same position that they were in when I checked on them. So I was like, that's weird. I closed the door, and when I turn around and I look down the hallway, there's this giant black mass, like a ball of just black energy, dude. And I was like, what the heck is that thing? I start walking towards it, and then I just see it like boom, like just come towards me really fast. And then I felt like you know when you stand up real quick when you get lightheaded? Like that, but like 10 times worse. Like I'm lucky I was standing right next to that wall, because if that wall hadn't been there, I would have just fell over, dude. But the wall was there. I fell like towards the wall, and like it took me a while to get my bearings back. But I was like, what the heck was that thing? And what I'm thinking is like that was all that negative energy, all that bad intent that homeboy had towards hurting me, that it probably manifested in my house. That's like the only thing that I could, like, that's the only sense I was able to make of it, because yeah. But yeah, like talking about I'm leaving and coming back with something. My friend and his homies didn't come to my house, but I don't know, something else did, bro. So yeah.
So Sparky, did you want to answer that question? Because I think you said you wanted to answer the question.
Yeah.
Somebody said, what is your obsession with lore?
I could totally understand that confusion when somebody says lore. They're like, what are you talking about? So when I say lore, I mean history, like ancient history up to now, of like what we've talked about, what our ancestors talked about, of what they saw, what they've dealt with, and everything else. If you look at that, it's just like when you guys were talking about the jinn. The jinn is not in the Bible, but you guys know it's real.
It actually predates the Bible or the Quran.
They're elementals. It's in the Bible.
No, it's not. Unseen spirits is the closest one they have for the jinn. They're born by smoke, which is not in the Bible, but that's the folklore of it.
No, they're born by a smokeless flame.
Yes.
Fire elementals.
They're fire.
What I'm saying is, you guys already assume certain things are real, even though they're not in the Bible, but you keep on going back to the Bible saying the rest is not true.
No, well, that's not the thing. Go ahead.
I'm trying to explain the lore thing. So if we understand there's demons, we understand there's spirits, we understand there's different kind of spirits, and we all on this panel said there's jinn. That's history. That is what we call lore, of stuff we can't prove, but our ancestors talked about it all the time. They knew it was real. They just didn't have proof. So when I say lore, I mean what our ancestors talked about and how they described things and what they did, each individual entity, being, spirit, what have you, throughout history, if that helps.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah, my ancestors are from the jungle, bro. I don't know.
Okay, or the desert. Here's the thing. All of these different types of entities have a basis somewhere in some sort of historical book, whether it's religion. But you said earlier to take out religion and just focus on lore. So taking out religion and focusing on lore, the jinn actually predate any religion that we know of.
I said reduce the religion,
okay,
and look at lore. So don't take out the Bible, because the Bible does have a lot of characters of what we're looking for. It gives you hints of what's out there. Now, if the Bible wasn't big enough to put everything that's out there, but we do have a lot of historians, a lot of people that wrote about these entities, spirits, what have you, predating, the histories came back from BC. And so if we look at those and then we cross them with the Bible, we can understand how many different things they are. And we should not lump them together, just like we shouldn't lump angels together, because some angels have fallen, some have not. It's the same kind of like, you know what I mean?
Well, all of this, let's put it all in, it was all destroyed during the flood. The ones that are, now there's some that I believe were not, but a lot of it was destroyed by the flood, right? So you don't have the same sort of chaos that was the antediluvian. So, but you have these evil spirits that the book of Enoch tells us they're evil spirits for all time. They're going to be here to plague us forever. And these are the spirits of the archons and their children, the Nephilim. And there were multiple generations of these things because their children made more children and their children made more children. And we could be dealing with not just procreation, but a type of genetic tampering or altering. So much, to me, is lost because so many people refuse to use common sense. So if you were to try to tell them about a book like the Imo Elish, which is an ancient book that predates the Bible by a long ways, and then you take those Sumerian books, and then they said, well, they've been misinterpreted and blah, blah, blah. No, they're not, because those people of that region, they sang that book. It's like a song, and they sang it every spring equinox for thousands of years. And what it really is, when you read that, it's a text that tells you a different version of the creation story, but it's so similar. It's really hard to ignore. And I've said this before, I do believe that the Israelites copied and pasted a lot of stuff. I do. I really did. People don't like to hear that. They get very pissed off. They get very angry.
If you look at all the ones that didn't make it in the Bible, the ones they did put in the Bible,
there's a lot of them.
If you look at all the stone writings we have, that predate BC, predate way before the flood and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at all those actually have what we're talking about in them. They have what they called gods at that time and actual other beings and all that kind of stuff. And that's the only thing I'm in. Is like, I think as people, we should take all the information and put it together and not lump them into demons. Because that's like saying every white guy is a cracker and every, I just like, you don't want to do that. I've seen more people get in trouble with normal things because they called it the wrong thing.
Well, and I've said this on the show a million times. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. To the Muslims, everything is a jinn. To the Christians, everything is a demon. And I've even made a little song. I was like, there a demon, here a demon, everywhere a demon. I've said that many times. And I've pissed a lot of people off. But everywhere they look, they everything I think I see becomes a freaking demon to me. I mean, that's not a joke, but it is kind of a joke. Because, hey, Tony, how you doing? There's a lot of people that are just absolutely obsessed with everything having to be into a box or a category. And you can't do that because it's like you said earlier, and I agree with that statement. A lot of things, the Fae are there. You have the Seelie and the unseelie courts. You have elementals, and you have all these different varieties of these beings, and they all do different things. The other day, okay, so we had spiders. We had some spiders. Here in Texas, spider mating season, and so you have some issues, right? And we had some get into the house, mostly not the bad ones. I had a wolf spider that I couldn't get it to stop jumping on me. I was trying to get him outside, and I ended up killing him. I felt bad about it because they're helpful. Yeah. But he just did not want. He kept wanting to go back into my bathroom, and they will bite you. So I said, "Look, I'm not." So I kept trying to pick him up, but ultimately he ended up getting squished. But I found another one that was not a good guy. And those are brown recluse. And I've also seen a black widow right outside up in our light fixture. So I said, we got to get rid of that because that thing you have to, because it will make babies with the egg sac. And then when it does that, they'll have them all over the place. You'll never get rid of them. And they are deadly. So my point is this. We got some poison for them, right, to get rid of them. But not every poison works for every kind. And then you can't just get one kind of bug spray that'll kill all the different bugs. Mm-hmm. So if it's that difficult to try to figure out, hey, I need to get some wasp spray because we got wasps too. We had to get rid of those. hornets, wasps, whatever. The poison, which I hate having to use it. Usually if I can get rid of them, I'll use it. There's an alcohol solution that you can make. But it'll say on there, it'll say, good for ants, good for this, good for that. But that's not going to work on everything else. Just like shark repellent. There's a type of shark repellent made from from crocodile urine that they can use to control bull sharks. But guess what? It actually attracts great whites. So that's sort of a problem there. So it's like, yeah, I'm out here and I'm protected from these bull sharks. And the great white's like, what is that smell? I'm curious, and it's like, this is not a good thing, and so this is a problem with these beings. What works for one may not work for the other. But if you're just looking to get rid of them, there is one thing that works. And I don't care what anybody says because it's tried and true method. I've used it myself. And that is tie, bind, and rebuke in the name of Christ. Now, if you're dealing with them, though, there's things that you do that'll attract certain ones and repel others, right? So you have to be careful what you do and what you say because you don't know who may be listening. And now, I agree, not every shadow that's seen is something that needs to be a federal case. You don't need to run and call the CIA because you saw a shadow on the wall. But there are some that are dangerous and that they are there to do harm. And they have to be cast out in the name of Christ. So there is some solution that I came up with that can actually just about defeat any bug that I've come across. To me, it's very much like Christ. That works for all of this if you're just trying to defeat them. But remember, when you do harm or you attack these beings, that's not the end of it. They go and they stew and then they come back like gangbangers and they will come back and spray you. And I'm not joking. And if you have a spiritual opening, you could be attacked. That happens a lot. There are people who've told me, well, I had something in my house, but I cleansed the house or whatever, but then I went to work and I had something happen to me. And some of these people have very bad things happen to them. But the easiest way to get rid of that is to close that spiritual opening, right? And so you have to be prayed up. And there's some people, we talked about a guy on the show the other night. He'll always have to be on guard. He will never be at peace because these beings will always be there waiting for them. He was taken by a cult. And we called him Steve or Sean on the show. Was it Sean? Was what we went by?
I thought it was
Scott. Sorry.
Yeah.
Scott. Sean's the guy we were recording with recently. Scott. So I got his story, but Scott was one of those people. His dad was Orthodox Jew and his mother was Catholic. He was raised secular, non-religious. He had no protection. He ended up being taken by these people, and now he is dogged out by these. By this, well, I think it's more just one demon, but it keeps coming back, and it's not just that one demon though. It has a couple of friends that it calls on to help, but it's this female. Kind of looks like a gorgon the way he describes it, but it is a very specific type of demon. Does certain things. Sexual demon, succubus, if you will, and it also drains his life force. And there was something in his parents' house, and when that demon was there, I think it enlists or recruits that being to do its bidding. I think that's why when we were talking last night about the Reptilian Dogman connection, were these beings working together? Did they set out to go after these people? No, I don't think so. I think that there is a very specific type of entity that dwells in that region, and it looks like a werewolf. They call it a dogman. People around there don't call it that. They call it a werewolf. But there is something else that was messing with this woman, and it was a reptilian that called itself Rim. And that reptilian was part of the Draconian Empire, if you want to call it that. That's what they call themselves. And this being... interdimensional, intergalactic, whatever you want to call it, they enlisted the help of those skinwalkers, which is probably what they are. They're a type of werewolf, skinwalker, shapeshifter, whatever you want to, and it said, we're going to unleash this on you. Why did it have the ability to do that? The same ability that I have if I took 2 pieces of gold and went and hired a mercenary. Said, hey, I'm a bad guy and I want bad things done. Can you go and do this? And the bad guy looks at it and says, yeah, that's enough. I'll go harass the shit out of that person and I'll go and commit heinous things.
Like the warlock you hired?
Apparently they didn't do a very good job. I need to get a new, instead of going to Warlocks or Us.
Yeah, that's my fault. There was actually a homeless guy on PCP. I didn't know.
He was swatting around, and we thought he was doing all kinds of magic.
Yeah, I thought he was doing the hand magic that that you do on the show.
That's partly my fault too, because when I saw him doing it, I thought this guy's fire, and so I made a mistake.
Yeah, I just saw him flailing. I thought he was making.
How much did we pay him? Because we need to use that as a write-off.
I paid him in ramen noodles.
Oh well, that's good.
Yeah, so we're good.
But we need to get a better one, not a bargain basement homeless guy.
Yeah, no more dirty bums on PCP.
If anybody knows anybody, let me know. Sparky, True, Scott, let me know if you guys have anybody in mind.
It was the smell you thought he controlled the unclean spirits.
Can I interject something?
Are you a woman? What can do math? Are you trying to be bewitching us?
The man's are speaking here.
The man's are speaking, woman. That's all I got to say about that. Go on now, demon. Be gone, demon. That demon got up in that woman, taught her how to do math and talk amongst men. I'm kidding, Scott. But how are you doing? What's going on? See, I rebuked her and it worked. She's just not going to talk.
Are you talking to me?
You there?
Yeah.
Maybe leave and come back in again, Excalibur.
The ramen noodle warlocks.
Can you hear me now? Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Sorry, my headphone, my connection wasn't good. I was going to say, originally you guys were talking about attachments and haunted houses and all that stuff.
Yeah. What happened to the sound?
Grew up on a haunted ranch, and I swear my adult siblings that continue to live there, they have different attachment issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-boggling. It's nothing like, possession or anything, but they get really weird if I visit. It's like the God essence that hangs around me just irritates their demons or something. I don't know. It's so weird. Yep. Have you ever had any experiences with that? Maybe it's just dysfunctional family issues.
Are you talking about like somebody that's got issues?
They just start acting weird around me. I mean, I grant you I have a dysfunctional family, but they just act weird. Like I have one sibling that is the oldest one, and I intimidate her. I'm the youngest. My presence intimidates her.
Yeah, the spirit in them hates the spirit in you, and it manifests in them.
Yeah, no one's possessed or anything like that. It's not that. It's an oppression issue, not a possession issue. But it's weird, and I think living on a haunted ranch, it makes it worse. I just think it makes it worse.
Well,
it never affected
ranch house
me.
Is haunted at this point.
I'm sorry, what?
Well,
I said I think every ranch house is probably haunted.
Yeah,
it's been
in that ranch. It has been there. It's always been there. We had someone who was like I think 2 owners before my dad show up one time when I was like, I don't know, about 13 or something, and he was talking about how the barn was haunted. And that would have been like in the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, it's just
most all
crazy.
barns are. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, well, it's an old place.
I can tell you from experience, and this is why I say it's like whatever your faith is, believe in your faith, be strong with your faith, believe in your faith, and bring that with you when you're dealing with stuff. Because I've had people with various different religions with me, and the one that isn't really, he's like doesn't believe in anything, or he's not really a follower of his religion, is the one that gets messed with, because they don't want to go near somebody that has true faith in their heart, because that carries weight. I was just in fact you guys were talking earlier about the Bible and how people interpret things and get stuck and all that. I was just having a conversation about an hour ago with a friend of mine he puts up with my alternative viewpoint of things,
And but he's very much a Bible person, and doesn't he disagrees with me the fact that I go, I'm not saying that the earth has been millions of years old, but it's definitely older than what the most biblical people think it is. It's not. This earth is not 6,000 years old. I don't think so.
6,000 years since the flood.
Not long. It's a little bit longer than that, I think.
There's been multiple floods. People don't know that either. They don't realize.
All you have to do is tell your friend, if you take the Bible and you took any other religion and you take all the names out of them, they cross over. 90% of them.
They do.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely correct with that. Yeah, and it's weird because I tell people Hinduism parallels Christianity. They get really upset. They don't understand. The reason they don't understand is because I get it. They have their own
Native American.
They will not read another person's religion. My friend who's Muslim, he's like, it's haram. I cannot read. I said, then how will you know?
Yeah. If
you don't study he goes, you should never read those things, my friend. He goes, at least your God is of Abraham. Don't ever read of those other things. I said, dude, how am I supposed to know what they believe, and how am I supposed to talk to these people and interview these people and find out what their beliefs are if I'm just basically just shutting myself off to 90% of.
It's kind of a form of like spiritual insecurity because you're afraid of your paradigms being challenged.
It's small-mindedness, and like I said, I agree with a lot of what the Bible has to say, but I fully understand that the Bible, there's some issues there, but the message gets through. It does. The message gets through, so that's good, but most people still have to have everything in a neat little box for them to understand it, because they do not expand their minds more. But then some people expand their minds too much and they get pulled off into the wrong direction. I don't agree.
What does it say? The Bible says all the right stuff is actually imprinted on our soul, on our heart. What's right and wrong,
exactly.
We know from birth.
I'll give you an example. I appreciate the knowledge that Josh brings, because I would never have the patience to read as many books as this man has brought. But I do not agree 110% with everything he has to say. But I listen, and then if it's really something I'm very in question about, I test the spirit, and my discernment is great enough that God will let me know, and I'm good with it. And the other stuff, I just kind of leave it and go, does it really matter that I agree on this particular subject? No, it doesn't. I agree on most things. So we're all heading as long as we're all heading in the same direction. And Josh is correct. Jesus, you evoke the name of Jesus. That is the most powerful thing you can do against whatever it is. I don't, like some people, like, as you were saying earlier, that they demon this, demon that. I don't do that. I refer to it as demonic, as in that's just my catch-all phrase. It doesn't matter whether it's a reptilian, ghost, or a dogman. It's of that nature.
Yeah, it's their evil nature, yes.
There is God.
Unclean spirits, yeah.
There is God. There are humans. And then there's the rest. That's, the way I look at it. I mean, including angels that are, on the good side. But that's the way I view it. It's like everything else it's an abomination of some degree or another. And they are at war with each other and at war with us. And we are not taught these things in church. I've been a Christian I've been a Christian since I was 19, and I didn't learn about the authority we have until 4 years ago.
I remember going to CCD as a kid, the Catholic catechism for kids, and they never taught us any of this. I barely learned anything. It was basically just like free daycare for daycare for the parents. All it was.
Well, I mean, and how much of the gospel does the Catholic? I'm not trying to pick on the Catholic Church, but I mean, do they really teach the gospel of Jesus? Kinda, but
yeah.
I
mean, they're not real big on preaching, like on preaching the word. It's more like the mass, but I don't know. I personally never really got much out of it.
I think there's just a problem with all organized.
Yeah, and I had to go to just to please my grandmother on my dad's side and
Yeah.
my great aunt on my mom's side.
It's more kind of like a cultural obligation if you're Hispanic than
Well,
like
I
a
mean,
spiritual
like I
one.
said, my dad's would be his stepmother, but she was the only grandmother I knew, and in order to please her, she was Czech. But I had to go to fulfill whatever. And my great aunt, who was like my surrogate grandmother on my mom's side, she really was, for all intents and purposes, my grandmother.
I've only gone to mass a couple times because my best friend from high school is Hispanic. So
every year I had to go.
You know,
Christmas Eve,
yeah,
Easter,
Christmas. Yeah, I would go with them.
St. Mary's, Guadalupe, or the church and temple, and I was just like, or San Juan. We had to go in the middle of the summer. I was like, why do we have to go down there when it's the hottest day of the year? Like, just with no AC, if I remember correctly. And it was just like, you're sitting there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Well, why is it in every time you see a movie and they call it's always a priest they call out to get rid of the ghosts out of a house? It's like, it's always a priest. It's like,
I'll tell you why that is. The Catholic Church is the oldest church.
Yes,
it still is, and it was the church that it was the Holy Roman Empire. Of course, Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate, who was the governor of Rome, and Rome sort of assumed the mantle of Christianity, which then spread it throughout Europe. Now, Byzantine Greek, the Eastern Roman Empire, they were Orthodox, but they are not as old as the Catholic. Now, they were sort of the first Reformation, really. And then the Lutheran still has a lot of the Catholic rites attached to it because Martin Luther was like, okay, look, Catholic Church has a lot of problems. We need to redo it. And so enter Lutheranism, which is
Catholic light.
Catholic light, yes. And a lot of my family is Lutheran. What you were saying about being with your family too, just a quick sidelight here. I go to Thanksgiving dressed as a wizard. I go as Gandalf. And I am the only person not in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, literally, out of 150 people that show up. I go every year as Gandalf, and I'm like, you shall not pass that gravy before it comes to me. I slam the stab. And everybody's like, that's what living in the city does to you, boy. Look at you.
That's what
now you're over here casting out Balrogs.
That's what living in Austin does to you.
One of my cousins, he's my cousin. He's my dad's first cousin, but he's like, every time I see him, whether it's a funeral, wedding, Thanksgiving, he's like, how's life in the big city? Every time. And I'm like, I don't know. It sucks. Is that what you got to go back out to your roots? Get back out there on the ranch. I'm like, yeah, well, I have one out there. I'm just not out there all the time. Cows ain't going to grow them shells. Like, you have to be there with them as they're growing. Like, they will. They'll do it.
It's better to live in the country than the city. I'll tell you that, even though I live in the city. It sucks.
I have both. Unfortunately, I don't get to spend as much time as I like to out of the country, but it's a very peaceful place, and I like to drive out there. But I have a lot of work to do in the city, and if people understood how much work I have, they would not be saying the stupid things they say. They would not. Trust me. These people, and you can see Sparky, he's got some toys behind him there, right? That's why you don't mess with country people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, believe me. And
That's Hank Williams.
Mm-hmm. I can do a lot of we could do a whole show just talking about different things like that. And then one day, Chaplain Tony there showed me his 45. He was like, here's the long call, because we're from Texas, and Texas is that way. So some of these people, though, that are my family, they don't realize, like, they think that everything is a certain way. I'm like, it's not always like that. We're not just constantly being assaulted by ghoulish homeless people. Sometimes we are, but it's not all the time. It's not the living dead. It's not like, Walking Dead. Sometimes it can feel like it downtown. But so what I was saying, though, about, my family, whatever, this is something that, like you're talking about feeling like you were different than others, right? Your family, and they feel intimidated by you. That's on them. If you're not doing anything to them, then that's on them. The Catholics, though, the reason that they bring they bring it when they do the exorcism is because they have the rites, the actual rites, RITES. They do a good job of that. That's one thing that they do. Now, it's kind of like what Sparky was saying, how all these different religions, they kind of line up if you stop and take a look, and some of them do some things better than others. I would say the Catholics and the Orthodox have it together when it comes to the rites of exorcism. I have a friend who was my roommate for years, and his family's Jewish, and he says that they tried to do an exorcism and kind of, I don't know if he was joking, but he said everybody got possessed at one point in time. This thing was moving around in between people and using them as vessels to talk. And I told him, I said, well, and there again, he's half Catholic. His mother was Catholic. His dad wasn't Orthodox, so he was just Jewish. And he said, yeah, maybe we should have called a Catholic.
Yeah.
That seems to be.
I think cast him up in the name of Rimfan.
Well, speaking of siblings, one of my siblings, but one of my sisters, she lives in the apartment that was built for me at the ranch in the barn. She lives in it now. She was having some problems, and I had to do what I could do over the phone for her, because I'm the original person that put any protection in that place, because I had some stuff happen in there. I don't see things. I'm kind of grateful to God. He keeps me from seeing but I feel it. I'm, empathic. And then I had some, weird stuff happen in that apartment, and I had it pretty cleansed. That, it doesn't work on the whole ranch. I mean, I think my other sister and I tried it at one point in time, and things calmed down, but I think it just pops up or whatever. But in that apartment, it was pretty clear for me for a long time. And then I guess I reinforced it over the phone. She hasn't had any trouble since, but she does it. My sister is somewhere between, she's kind of Catholic, but not really. I mean, there's just, I get it related for her, I guess, or whatever, but we weren't raised that way or anything. Raised more, oh shoot, I can't even think about it. Anyway, I blank on it. They're big in the South. Can't think of what it is. Baptist.
A lot of farms.
Baptist.
Yeah, Baptist.
A lot of farms have issues. Like I have issues here because I have really old land. What they call roamers, which those are spirits not tied to any building or any one thing, and they just move around. And so if they see a building, they'll come into the building, and so you'll have that like come in. If they don't like it, they'll leave. So you have like some weird stuff happen, and then I'll stop. It's some more weird stuff. That's where I call my spirit army. It's family members. It's good spirits around me, and so they let me know when stuff comes in. And I actually have an EVP of them kicking the living crap out of somebody, shoving out of the house, going, "Don't worry." And they called me by my original name. He's still in the house. You can get weird stuff, especially on farms. But that's when it's like you need to have your faith. You need to have your relations, fathers, mothers, or grandfathers stand behind you, and all that kind of stuff.
I kind of view it a little different than that, but that, I think once you're where you're at, up or down, you're there. That's just my viewpoint. But as far as things that have happened on that ranch, I mean, it seems like people who are visiting get the weirder stuff than the people living there, because there's a guy that's living in the main house now that he rents part of the house. My dad passed away a few years ago, and this gentleman is a Hispanic gentleman who's been working for my family construction company for 25 years. So he's very trusted to live there and such. He had his niece and nephew there, and they were visiting, and they say they saw an older gentleman standing by the fireplace, and they were thinking that it's my dad. No, it's not. My dad went where he went. Definitely something, trying to replicate as those things do. And there's been disembodied voice trying to chase people out of the main house. I have never had any experiences in that main house at all. My experiences were in my apartment in the barn. I could hear things. Have you ever had experience where it sounds like there's like it's a very low volume party next door?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, every night. I mean, I could hear that stuff. Sometimes I could hear vibration, feel vibrations in the ground.
I've even heard glasses clanking when I was at the bar.
Yeah, it's like right next, and in that barn, it's because it's part of it's a hay barn and the other half was an apartment now. And legend says that there was an old Italian guy that built that barn, and he passed away in the barn. Like he had a RV or something. Basically passed away in the garage of the apartment of my apartment. And so all sorts of weird stuff happened. I wonder, you know how they say that like granite and rocks and stones are an attractant, or there's something to it. I can't even tell you how many rocks that are on this ranch. It's ridiculous. And there's like a big concentration under the stable because my dad.
Where is this at? What state? Arizona?
No, it's in California. It's in Northern California, about 35 miles southeast of Sacramento.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have heavy rock, and granite rock actually holds a lot of energy. Scientifically proved.
I'm not saying it's granite rock. It's basically river rock. I think it's like a river rock.
Yeah, rock and crystal. It's all.
Yeah, if you break these rocks apart, they look like they're crystal inside. They're like the shape of potatoes. It's a weird rock.
Shape of potatoes.
Yeah, they're basically the same. And in the two sides of the garage on that barn, they're built up out of this rock. I mean, that's what this older Italian guy did. And then before my dad put the stables in, there was a big pile of rocks in the back, and he put them all into a pit and covered them up and put the stables on top of that. So it's like Can
I ask you a question? Sure. Is the barn actually put on those rocks? Like, did they use those to actually shore up the barn where they built it?
The rocks that are on the barn, they're on the garage part of the barn, and they're used like brick on two sides.
So when you have opposing sides of quartz crystal, it actually opens a vortex.
Well, maybe that's why there's a portal.
A stone pillar.
Ranch. Okay.
So old barns, when they either stack them outside or they put them underneath to actually do the foundation, it's called a stone pillar. And that's actually in the Bible somewhere. I can't remember where it's at. But that actually draws energy into the residence or the barn. So it's just like a supercharged thing for ghosts.
And then where all the rocks were pushed in looked like a giant vort. It's like there's thousands of rocks pushed into this hole and then covered up with dirt, and the stables are built on top of that. So there's a whole lot and then that doesn't count the rocks that are out in the pastures. It's crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of rocks in this place.
So let's do this. You're welcome to stay on, Excalibur. Thank you for telling us that. But I need to get to a couple other people here. And if you want to stay on the panel, you're welcome to. But Scott, let's go to True. True, you were in first, or maybe, it was you, then Scott. Then we could get back to Scott's story. True, what do you got for us?
Wow. This conversation is amazing. I almost forgot what I wanted to talk about. Going back to what you had a conversation with Truth and Bass dealing with the alien agenda, pretty much.
The last episode on Friday?
The abductions. There was a portion in there. Hopefully, I'm gonna get it right. Y'all were talking about how.
We were talking about how 99% of black folks get abducted. You need to be real careful, True. Be real careful, dude. I'm just telling
you. We're targeted.
You're targeted. you see sirens and lights, and you're like, damn it. Gosh,
that's so messed up.
And I'm not even a pro football player. What am I going to do? And then you're like, oh, shit, that's an alien abduction. Damn it. So now you got two things you got to look out for. True that. I'm just saying, brother. Be strong. Watch it. Watch yourself, bro. Watch your six. Them aliens.
I always got my head on the swivel, man.
You got to have your head on a swivel. Richard knows about that. He's always dumpster diving up there in Canada.
Yeah, you got to watch out for rats, though.
See, look, Sparky's up there oppressing you right now. They're showing you badge. Look at this. You see this? If you haven't committed a crime, you're probably your kids are going to commit a crime. So just go to jail right now. Okay? Just go. All right? We're not even playing. And you're going to be abducted by aliens. I'm messing with you, True. So what you got for us? Go ahead. Tell me what you got.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a question I wanted to ask you. When we look at what's happening or what has happened in our recent as far as abductions and human mutilations, the hybrid program, things of that nature. I had a thought as I was watching, because I was watching the, it was already recorded and everything, so I wasn't in the live, right? But I had a thought. Now, we think about the abductions, the mutilations, hybrid programs, and I don't know who said it, but they were pretty much was like, well, what if they're trying to build a new civilization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to bring I guess a better species or a new species.
Tale as old as time, bro.
Thought about it. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think you're on to what I'm giving to talk about. When we start thinking about the story of the Anunnaki and the ancient history, the hybridization program has been going on for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm wondering if they started it way back then. Okay, just think about if I can't remember the text. I can't. But when we think about when they showed up, according to the text, okay, we were not even here, not like we are now. We didn't look like we look now. Who's to say that that hybrid program, we are the hybrids?
Mm-hmm.
You
so
know,
you mean like humans
it's
are
kind of,
already hybrids?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Yeah, because
Who's
we
to
are.
say that we're?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and
Okay.
do you have anything to add, or do you want me to expound on that, or?
Well, I'll continue, and please do expound. But when I go through that text, and this stuff is written in stone, you know, I look at it like, okay, I'm starting to make comparisons. I'm like, wait a minute. When you look at what they had to work with, their template that was already here.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, what they used was a being that were barbaric and hairy. It was described in these tablets, and it sounded a lot like Bigfoot to me.
The lineage of Esau.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The
True,
lineage
but
of Esau.
Esau came way later though.
Yeah.
Esau came
But he
way
could have
later.
held that DNA. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, well, that's fact. That's facts. Yeah, he could have definitely held that DNA. I believe that we were we're the results of a hybrid program.
That
It
has been a
started
speculation for a long
thousands of
time.
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a thought. I know I couldn't comment or anything like that because it wasn't live at that point. But if you can expound on that and give some insight to it, it'll be greatly appreciated.
Can I just say one thing real quick? All the Ites and Eames tribes from the Book of Joshua, they're all hybrids. The Zanzimemes, the Jebusites, the Amalekites. I don't know. It lists like 20 different. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll look in this Gary Wayne book here. Yeah, like the. Sorry, Wolf, if you want to expound there, I'll find what I'm talking about here.
No, go ahead.
I'm just trying to find the list of them.
We'll just let the audience be bored while you're busy.
Yeah, go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
Is that the Canaanites that you're talking about?
Yeah, Canaanites and Jebusites and Amalekites and all of the Ite and Eam tribes, the Zanzimemes and
they're all Nephilim.
Yeah, they're all just different tribes of Nephilim. They're all just different hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, different hybrids.
Some of them were little people.
For me, it's been going on for thousands of years. They've always been changing. Well, humanity has always been changing and changing and changing for thousands of years. And then when I think about it, far as our science goes, we call it evolution. Okay, when maybe it's not evolution, it's transformation, it's hybridization, it's genetic manipulation, not evolution. Just a thought of mine, you know.
So here's my take
I
on
know.
this.
Okay.
Here's what I think, and I've said this before, that even if we are not like even if, and I'm not saying this did or didn't happen, it doesn't change the fact that there is a God. A lot of these people who believe these theories, they're atheists.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter, because if, let's say hypothetically, I'm not saying this is what I believe, this is one of the theories, right? And like what we were talking about earlier, the Emu Elish, right? That's one of these ancient texts. Yeah, I'll tell you this: even if these tablets, these Babylonian, Sumerian tablets, whatever, and then later Persians, even if that was true, which I'm not saying it is, but let's say theoretically, for argument's sake, that is the case, that we were created by Enki and Enlil, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that happened, if it really happened, that doesn't change the fact that there is still a God. They are not gods. They just put themselves up as God. Listen, just as we do ourselves, we put ourselves up as gods when we take animals and mess with them. In fact, in Congress 2 years ago, was it 3 years ago, there was a big fight on the Senate floor where they talked about chimeras, and they were arguing back and forth about whether it should be legal or not. Of course, it should be illegal, but it doesn't matter whether it's made illegal or not, because the black science programs from the shadow governments are going to do what they're going to do. And if people may say that sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, well, these are crazy conspiracy theories until they happen to be true. And all these things have been proven over and over again to be true. And then people be quiet about it and they go on to the next thing to attack. Okay, so we are sitting here fumbling around in the dark, right? Mm-hmm. While there are people, principalities in high places, and there are people, servants that serve them. They're demonic. Okay, I'll just say that. I do believe that. And these beings are doing what they're doing, and they're making people do these things. They're giving them the power to do them as pawns, and they are hybridizing things. Now, some of these things already exist, i.e. the inner earth. Some of these things exist upon the earth and have for a long time, but they are making these things into other creatures. They're making chimeras. That's why it was a big debate, in Congress. Here is the thing. God sent Christ here to pull us out of this crazy nightmare. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's real, true, or false, whatever, because all you got to do is cling to Christ like driftwood, and you'd be fine. You will be fine. But it doesn't hurt to try to figure out what is what. And if you believe for a second that we should just close our eyes and ignore all of these things and just pretend like these things don't exist and not seek the knowledge, then you don't read the Bible the way you say you do. The New Testament, Jesus says that we die for lack of knowledge.
Right.
He says that, and that is a very important thing. Because if we were not supposed to try to figure these things out, why would Jesus tell us to do it? And why would he tell us to reject that cult of ignorance that's been wrapped around us? Why would Jesus go counter to some of the things of the Old Testament? Not all, but some. You know why? Because that isn't God writing those things. That is the priesthood of the Levites. That is the Levites and the Cohens. They wrote those things that were incorrect to keep themselves in power. And God reprimands them at one point in the Old Testament. I think it's Ezekiel, but I'm not 100%. You have to go look it up. But he tells them, he says, I don't want these burnt offerings and these sacrifices and these other things that you try to offer to me. Those are for men. That is of man. And God, as we know, is not a respecter of man. God is a force. God is a force of nature. And the personification of God was who? Jesus. So when Jesus comes down in the flesh, the Word made flesh, the Word of God, which expounds from him, his Spirit, God sends Jesus. Jesus comes down and tells everybody, hey, you're doing it wrong. This is not correct. He gets upset. He goes into the temple. They're using the temple to change money. This is the religion that he was born into. But I think it was very simple because God knew he's the beginning and the end. He saw that at that time, Judea would be taken by the Romans, and the Romans would spread this through all of Europe. And then from Europe, it would travel all over the world, right? Christianity spread like fire. And that was very important that Jesus died on the cross as a Judean under the Roman leadership. Because if it didn't happen that way, if it didn't happen exactly that way, we don't get the same religion. We don't get the same results. It doesn't work. If Jesus just went and lived to be an old man, like some people say he did, there's a whole thing in Japan where they say that he did live and die in Japan, whatever. But that's after Jesus rose from the grave and did what he did. Who's to say he didn't ascend? Jesus could have came back and lived multiple lives because he was infinite. And Jesus would understand that there is a soul matrix. He understands that. We are all fractals. I'm not even joking. You are not the whole of your spirit, of your soul. You have a soul and you are part of that soul, but you are not the whole of that soul. Yeah. And your soul sends pieces of you out into the world just as God sent Jesus out here. Jesus was a part of God, just as we are a part of him and a part of God. We're the same thing. What people don't understand, what they don't fathom is that this is a vessel and your spirit, your soul, most people, not all, but most people, and this is going to get a little deep and it may be kind of weird, but go look this up and research it. You are actually a fractal of a soul, of a whole soul. Really, you are. And your higher self, your higher soul has sent you into this vessel to gather that knowledge and return. What I mean by that is imagine a zip drive. Do you want to explain it, Anthony?
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
Yeah, it's like you're it's like the life that we're living now. This is one part of a greater whole. And if you compare it to like a little USB drive, like let's just say this thing is a USB drive that you plug into your computer. This drive is going to have specific information on it. This is kind of like us. Like this would be kind of like me.
You gather that knowledge.
Yeah. Let's say everything on this drive is what it takes to be and make me, like who I am in this life, Anthony Moreno. All right. Now, when you plug this into a computer, it's going to interface with that computer, and from that computer, you can download more information onto this drive, and once you pull it out, it's going to be its own separate thing again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it goes back to the source and connects to the mainframe.
Yeah.
That is, to me, how God works. God calls us back. Everything we do is just a mimicry of the Spirit. It really is. Okay. We go back to God when we pass over, right? We go back to the source. You're judged. God is pure. He is the light. He is everything that is good. The devil is not, that is not the antithesis of God. Antithesis of God is the darkness. That is what consumed these devils and made them have pride enough to think that they were on par with God. They're not. So what happens is God, he has to smith you. It says in the Bible, like he's smithing us like a silversmith. What it means is that he has to purify us. And one of the biggest purifications that we know of, universal, is what? Fire. That's why people say, well, I have to burn in hell or I'm burning in purgatory. There are people who've contacted spirits who've said, I am burning. I'm suffering, but they're not necessarily in hell. The lake of fire is not hell. It says in Revelation at the end, what happens to hell?
Hell will be cast into the lake of fire.
Hell gets cast into the lake of fire. The condemnation of a state of being. It is destroyed and cast into the lake of fire. You got to read it. You got to pay attention. Read the Greek translations of that. It's very interesting what happens. So when God says, hey, enough is enough, Christ returns as a whole being with all the power in the kingdom of heaven of God and the power of the Holy Spirit and the flaming sword of truth. And he is going to be waging war on the evil. It's going to destroy the people's bodies. They can't handle that because that pure white light of God, you can't handle it because you're infested with parasites. And that's what they are. That's what demons are. When you do a cleanse, some people have told me they get sick as dogs. I had this one lady saying she was crawling to the toilet. Mm-hmm. And it was because she had some really nasty things going on with her. What's up, Steve? How you doing tonight?
Good job.
And so, yeah, so it was good to see you. So what happens is these parasites, these beings, whether you want to call them demons or whatever, these entities that are attached to some of these people, they're so vile that when you send love and light to somebody, they'll accuse you of doing witchcraft. Yeah, because you sent them light and love and of the Holy Spirit. I've done it. I've prayed for people. And then they're like, this guy tried to curse me. I woke up in my bed writhing in agony. You know why? Because you're full of evil and demons. You're full of unclean and foul things.
When you reject God's pure love, you experience it as pain.
All I did was pray over you and ask the Holy Spirit to touch you, and that white light energy burns you. If that's burning you, you have a serious problem. When people tell me they pray for me in the Holy Spirit, I know these are decent people. I feel it, and I feel a goodness that's coming off of it. I don't feel like I'm burning and writhing in agony. My joints don't feel like there's worms coming out of them, like some of these goofballs that are saying that's what's happening. You have some serious issues. So imagine what is going to happen when Christ returns. You're going to implode. Your body is going to dissolve. You don't need it anyway. But the thing is, this is the truth, the absolute, real, unadulterated truth, that these beings could have seated us here. They could have made us here, and it wouldn't amount to a hill of beans. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is we know 100% that Christ is real. We have thousands and thousands of accounts of out-of-body and of near-death experiences of people who've told me and many other researchers and many other YouTubers and authors, podcasters, that they have experienced Jesus Christ deliver them from the lake of fire, pulled them out of it when they cried out. And then he tells them, go and sin no more. Now, this is something that is some sort of weird phenomenon to some people. The atheist mind tries to wrap their mind around, well, scientifically, even though I'm a third degree, whatever density chimp, I'm going to tell you how it works. No, you're not, because you can't even fathom the fourth, fifth, or sixth density. How are you going to fathom the kingdom of God? You have no clue. So they fumble around with their science, which is very incomplete and very weak. And then they say, well, this is a phenomenon. This is a weird thing. These are the beliefs of these people. So then they get so far into the esoteric, they don't even realize that they're there. And then they're basically saying that you've created a tulpa. But then again, they don't believe in any of it. So how could that be? Then you start going around in circles with these people, and you realize that academia is just a cage that they put themselves into. And there's literally... that cage is protecting them from the sharks out in there that is truth, and they don't want to get bit by it. That is the problem with academia. It tells you things that are not true, and it puffs you up to make you think that you are God. I've had people tell me that. I've argued with these people, and they're like, I'm my own God. That's a very weak deity. I wouldn't waste my time worshiping it. And some of these people look so weak that if they had a fender bender and the door was a little bit stuck, they'd probably just lay in there and suffocate and die. Well, the AC's out. I guess I'm doomed, and you're like, well, I thought you were your own God. Can't you just will your door open? Probably not. These are the same people that will argue with you. These eggheads, they will argue with you, and they will tell you that you're wrong. These same people can't do a push-up or a pull-up or can't lift the bar when they go to lift weights, if they ever get there, and somebody goads them into it after a Thanksgiving dinner in a bed. But I can tell you this, and I'm talking about somebody specific, but here's the thing. When you enter into the kingdom of the agreement to work for the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Christ, you accept Christ. You accept the full weight of that, and you get a target on your back. And it doesn't really matter who made what back in the olden days. It really doesn't matter. The bottom line is God sent Christ because he pitied us, and he wanted us to find him, to pull us out of this. Jesus had to literally quantum level shrink himself down to this being that was nothing like his true form, and suffer like we do, and then suffer some more and suffer some more for doing nothing wrong. He was a blameless, innocent person, and he had to, as I guess you could say, he was kind of a fractal of God, right? That's how he was. So he had to suffer, then go back to the source and take it to him, but he had to be purified. So 3 days and 3 nights he went to hell, right? To that hell realm, and he ministered. Now, if those people are there and they're locked down for eternity, then how did Jesus go there and tell them, hey, here's the word? Why would he preach to them if there was no hope for them? See, Jesus never tells us to not preach to people. He never tells us to not pray for people. But the enemy will lie and tell you, oh, you should not pray for this person anymore because they're bad and God told you that. Who is telling you that? Because that's not God. Because the Father, the one that Christ talks about, that is a completely different being. Because he never tells you to stop praying for those that are in sin. You may think it's a useless task, but I do it every day. I pray for those enemies, and they have announced that they will not pray for me because God told them I'm too evil to don't pray for me. That's fine. Don't pray for me. That's fine. I actually don't want your prayers anyway because you're praying to a false God. You don't pray to the God I do because my God would never say that. If their God really told them that, that's not somebody I want to be associated with. You never stop praying for the enemy, that they will turn their lives around. Never stop praying for them. I pray for them today. I pray for them yesterday. I pray for them tomorrow, and I'll continue to pray for them. And that God blesses them with discernment enough to realize that this is not correct and that they'll move on with their lives and do something else. Now, that is up to God to break them free from that reprobate mind, but it's also up to them because we have free will. So many people don't realize that that is a very important component of salvation. You still have your free will. But like I said on the show before, and I'll say it again, you have to tell God, take the wheel. I don't want to be in control of all of this because it's too much. It's a daunting task. So when you tell God that and you say, hey, in the name of Christ, can you please take the wheel, take over my life and lead me in, basically like going bowling with the bumper lanes. That's what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that because you are a man and you are fallible and you're prone to sin because by the creation of us, we are imperfect. Now, that asks the question, if this was God, the true one living God that made us, why would he make an imperfect being? Why would we have all these problems? And why would we be so easily tempted in the garden? These are questions that people don't want to answer. They don't like to talk about it because the Old Testament has been saddled with the New Testament and it has been patched together. But a rabbi will tell you that they don't believe in the Old Testament the way we do. They said the Old Testament is a book full of history of the Jewish people. They follow the Tanakh, right? And then from the Tanakh, they get the Torah, and then the Talmud, which is another way of teaching it. Those are the books that they follow. They don't even listen to some of these books that we look at as history. They don't observe them at all. So how is it that is Judeo-Christian when we're really not Judeo? We're Christian. You wouldn't take the Quran and stick it together with the New Testament and say, yeah, but the Quran says this, and there's this contradicting stuff there because there's a lot of contradictions from the Old Testament to the New Testament. I don't care what anybody says, there is. Yeah. You can pretend all day long. Just like if you were to put the Quran, it would be disjointed. It would not fit. And there are things that don't fit. If you read the Tanakh, do you know that David calls out to Yahweh, and do you know who Yahweh is, who he is that answers him? Take a wild guess. You would never guess in 1,000 years unless you've read it.
It's a dragon.
A dragon.
Well, yeah.
He describes in full detail a dragon. Folks, I am not joking. Go read it. He says, I called out unto the Lord, and I beheld him and his terrible visage, basically saying that this is what he looks like. He's got this fire breath coming out. He's got these wings. He's got scales. He is a dragon. Now, do I believe that that Yahweh, that his God was this dragon? No, I don't. I believe that the priests did that because they were mimicking the Babylonian priests because they wanted their God, their dragon, to be more powerful and more stronger than their dragon. See, that's the problem. Is man gets in there, and they worship the wrong thing. They say and do whatever it takes to get ahead when God says we're supposed to do it like this. And man goes, well, I'm going to go here to here. That's the problem. How many people have the patience for that? How many people want to spend their entire life in servitude to God? Not many. That's why you don't have a lot of priests unless they're running from something. And I don't mean physically. What I'm talking about is this is what people have written. But remember, this is what people have written. That doesn't mean that it is true. That's where discernment comes in. Now, some people don't know how to say that word. They call it decrement because they're stupid. But here's the thing. Discernment tells you, if you pray and you are in the Spirit and you are in Christ, it tells you what you're supposed to hear and believe and see, and you will understand it. There is a lot of common sense that goes into this. Unfortunately, a lot of common sense ain't coming out of it. It's just a bunch of people who are believing something because some person in Sunday school was taught in Sunday school the same thing that they're teaching them. And this is the way that the Bible says. And they say stupid things like, it fits like a glove. No, it does not. It absolutely does not. Now, you could be like OJ and put the glove on and you know, whatever. But it doesn't actually fit like a glove. There is a lot of inconsistencies. And people do not like to hear that. And when you say that, they attack you vehemently because you're attacking their worldview. And if that worldview comes down, they have a serious, serious problem with it, because now what do you do now? I interviewed a guy recently. He was telling us, he was like, I had to come to the conclusion that reality is not what I thought it was. There are these creatures out there that look like upright wolves. They move around with earthly feet. And they do things that are terrible, heinous things. And there are things that look like giant lizards that walk around on two legs. There are creatures that look like something between a troglodyte, an ape, and us. And that runs around in the woods and it lives in caves. And this is a hard reality. This is the bitter pill. But that will send you down that rabbit hole. And then eventually you will come to the conclusion where you're asking questions like you are now. Now, I'm not telling you that you should walk around all day questioning every bit of your faith. Your faith is there for a reason. But you do need to use discernment and use some common sense, because some of these things don't make sense. And there is nothing wrong with questioning it, because Jesus tells us to do that. Test the spirits. Find out if this is real. Also, he tells us we die for lack of knowledge. He's very adamant that we need to learn. And he rebukes the priests, and he tells them, he says, you are not of the house of David. He tells them that. He says, you're of the synagogue of Satan. Right? He tells them that. Revelations 2:9 and 3:9, he says, we suffer under those that claim that they are of the house of David. They claim that they're Jews, but they're not. They're really not. And what he means by that is that when you enter into the contract with Christ to be in the kingdom of Christ and eventually go to the kingdom of God in heaven, right? That you are no longer a normal person. You are God's chosen people. You are those people. But so many people want to tear that up and pretend like it was some ancient word that was given to Jacob, right? And if your descendants are evil and do vile and do bad, do you think that God is an ignorant person? Because he's not a person at all, and he's definitely not ignorant, that he's going to just turn a blind eye and go, yeah, it's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. He is not stupid. He is the beginning and the end. So he's not going to enter into a promise with someone whose descendants would become very evil and vile and do horrible things. He's not going to do that, because that could happen. So God knows this. So when he's talking to Jacob, he's talking to him specifically. But you also have to wonder who wrote that and why did they write that? And did they do it correctly? Or were they trying to get a leg up on their political rivals? Were they trying to get a leg up on the enemy? And when they were talking about God, were they talking about the true God, the Father of Christ, the one that Christ talks about? See, when you take Christ out of the equation, then the old way just is like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's just, we're supposed to do all this stuff, whatever. But then you put Christ in there and you're like, wait a minute, this don't make sense. Why do you think those people hate Christ so bad? They hate him. They absolutely hate him. The descendants of the Pharisees are anything but holy. They absolutely hate Jesus. They spit on Christians. They spit on us. Absolutely. I've seen interview after interview of these people telling the interviewer that they would kill a Christian if they could. They don't like us. They don't want us. They don't want us, whatever. And then these copycats, the Muslims, they do the same thing. They copied these people. So if you're copying these people that are not doing good, what is your religion going to be? Let's cut the animal's throat and let them suffocate to death on their own blood. Do you think that God wants that? Do you think that that's a clean way to butcher an animal? Because there is no purpose in that at all, other than to debase and agonize, the more agony of that animal. What kind of God would want that other than a demonic entity? Because God never asked for blood sacrifice. Never. They do it in the Old Testament. They do this. The Muslims do it every time they kill an animal. Is that correct? No, it is not. See, that's the problem right there. And that is why coexisting isn't really an option, is it? And I promise you, one day, these people, they're going to come for us because we're Christians, and you have to stand strong. Like
they already did. You just lived past the last 5 years, man. They already came for us.
Well, it's going to get worse.
I got a question for you.
3 times Peter denied Christ. Don't do that. Go ahead. Question.
Got a question for you. Now, this is something that I've thought about before. And going back to what I mentioned, and by the way, I agree totally with everything that you said. I totally agree. Just so you know, I'm with you on that. But I've thought about this. Now, let's just look at the basics, so to speak. And Mr. Richards, I would love to hear your opinion on this. Through the ancient alien hybrid program, right? Let's just go there. How were they able to do these things and we still maintain the spirit of God? You know, how were they able to just create a new body and still move that aspect, that spark of light, that spark of the creator into these bodies? And we're still cognizant or still aware of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
How can they just move us like that into different bodies and change the bodies as we go along? How can they do that and not be punished?
Well, they were punished.
That's like a monkey wrench in the whole
I think
thing.
that they were the Watchers. They were punished, and they're being punished right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and doing that too, we do it too. What do you think clones are? Now, that doesn't mean that a clone doesn't have a soul, because without that soul or that fractal, which I think is what it is, you wouldn't have anything to power that body. Here's the thing.
How are they able to do that? That's just strange to me. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. If you look at it like this, there are 8 billion people on this planet, right? So obviously, if you were to say that reincarnation is real, only so many people can be reincarnated. But people are looking at it in a weird way. They're looking at it like your entire soul is just the whole, and it goes, that's not the case. You are the sum of many lifetimes. I promise you, whether they were in the spirit or in the flesh, and you do both. That is a fractal of that soul that goes in and becomes a person and does whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. I'm so interested. Mr. Richards, Canada. Can you chime in on that one?
See, I kind of have a different point of view. I believe that we are still of the original human race, the originals that God created and that God preserves his own, and that these other tribes and these other Nephilim were wiped out, or these other, I mean, there's lots and lots of different tribes. I got like a dozen names for them here, but I think that they are a lot of what we encounter in these demonic, like when people encounter this alien or that alien or a werewolf or a goblin or what have you, whatever name you want to put to it. I think they're the remnants of these things that used to, these hybrid programs. I think that but that's whether they exist in a world parallel to ours, whether they exist under the sea, whether they exist in a cavernous region under the earth, whether they exist in the sky. I don't really know, probably all of the above, but I believe that God is in complete control. The Father of Christ is in complete control, and that he preserves his own, and that he has preserved his own.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Chaplain?
I agree with that too. It doesn't change what he's saying, though, because what he's talking about is going all the way back to the beginning. If there was a hybridization program, I'm not arguing that there was or there wasn't.
Oh, there was. There was.
Yeah, let's say that there was, but God still preserves his own. I do, because he kept us, from being more polluted. That's what that was about. But the problem was the priesthood of Israel. They got in there and they told lies to keep themselves in control and in power. Jesus exposes it. I don't understand people who've read the New Testament. How can you not see that? He tells them that they're wrong over and over again. He tells them over and over again. So, I mean, it's a very simple, to me, it's not rocket science. People don't use common sense. And if you understand what a fractal of a soul is and you understand how it works, then you'll understand that Christ could have lived multiple lives at one time, especially being that he was perfect. He could have done many things and been at many places at once, something that we can't achieve. There is an effect where people have been in two places at once. I've heard of this, but that is the fractal. That is the soul fractal. That's what that is. But most commonly, here's a weird thing. It is with people who, and this is a weird thing, people who've had a twin that died, maybe at birth. And that is something very, very strange. There was a case of a teacher in Illinois. I read it years ago. It might have been in Fate magazine or one of these other books. But she lost her, it's Indiana. She lost her job eventually because she kept having biolocation. It was weird. You know, people were seeing her in different places. Turns out that she had a twin that died at birth. There's a lot of that, you know, it's something that we don't really understand. Twins, to me, make perfect sense that they are really just one of the same soul. I'm telling you the absolute truth.
Yeah.
These twins will tell you, like, I have my life and they have theirs. But if you could literally split yourself into 3 or 4 different soul fractals and live 4 different lives. Then it all goes back like that hard drive to the source. And then that source goes to the other source and it goes up the line. And then once you're smith and clean, you go back to God. That's a very simplification way to say it, simplified way to say it or put it. But this is the truth. And one day you will see it and you'll be like, this guy was right. You might be on the other side when you see it, but at least you'll know the truth and you'll know that I was not blowing smoke. And I'm telling you the absolute truth. And another thing, one of the problems that people have in this world, and it is completely understandable, but some people take it to the extreme, is that when someone is talking about something and they tell you something, there is this, and the world has made it this way, but there is this general consensus that you just automatically don't believe them and think they're full of crap and that there's some kind of, you know, there's some kind of agenda behind it, or there's something that they're after or whatever. That's ulterior motive. And that's not the case with me. I'm telling you the absolute truth. And this is not a character that I play on the show. Y'all should know that by now. People who know me in my real life, this is me, who I am 24/7.
Yeah, the camera doesn't make a difference.
I don't get on here and start talking different. Hey, guys, guess what? I'm going to be this guy. No. Everybody that knows me, my everyday life, and there's a bunch of people that know me, I have a lot of friends, they'll tell you this is him all the time. This is not me putting on an act or a show or trying to be smart or clever or funny or cute or whatever. This is just me being me. And I live in the moment, and I just try to tell you, hey, this is what's going on. And I'm telling you what I believe is the truth. If I don't know it or I tell you, I don't know this. That's why I said I don't know exactly what I believe 100% when it comes to this. But there are theories out there that make sense. They are plausible theories that you can postulate on. And so when I talk and I tell people things, I'm not doing it in a way that I'm smarter than you and you need to listen to me because I'm a badass. No, dude, I'm just telling you the truth. And there are certain people in this community, they can't fathom that. You know why? Because they would never do that themselves, which is be honest with others, to be honest with God, which is really, and then be honest with themselves. There are people that look in the mirror every day and they don't like what they see. I'm not that person. I don't look in the mirror and go, God, I hate this person, because I don't hate myself. But I'm not a narcissist and think, oh, I love me. You know, I'm so great. I joke around with that. But dude, no, seriously. I look in the mirror every day and I try to take accountability for myself. What can I do today to make me a better person than yesterday? If everybody did that, imagine the world we would be in. And if you take responsibility for what you've done and said, you know, and the things that I've done and said, that may be my demise, because the powers that be don't like what I do and say. I get messed with quite a bit, but I am a normal person. I am a normal person. I am a normal functioning person. I had my brain scanned last year. It is normal. I am not a rabid murdering killer like some people have claimed that I'm the Lady Bird Lake killer. This is how crazy these people are. They have literally said that now. They have tried to paint me in every evil light that they could possibly paint. They have
what's
said
your social credit
and
score?
slandered me in every way they possibly can. But at the end of the day, I am still here. I am still me. And the last thing I need is their approval. What I need is the approval of Christ. Because Christ is the doorkeeper that's going to say, hey, you're going to enter into the kingdom of God. If you're not smithed correctly, God will take care of that. You'll suffer. And in the afterlife, you may not go to hell, but you're not going into heaven until you're clean. And some of us got a lot of cleaning to do. Me, myself included. You got a lot of sin on you. We all do. That's why you pray. I pray all the time. Sometimes, when I was a kid, I used to do it so much. I had OCD. My mom said it's part of his condition. He's always praying. I was praying for deliverance, for help. I was praying for every single thing I could think of because the only true person, friend, whatever I had was Christ. So I've had that foundation since I was a child. And nobody's going to take that away from me, even at my darkest, when I was not a good person and living in sin. Which some of these people act like they've never done that. Oh, I was praying 4 hours a day on my knees. Sure you were. I've never done that in my life, so that makes you a better person than me. Now back to reality. I was a sinner. I committed sins. I did things that were not correct. I was not a thief. But I admit right now, because they were trying to say, oh, he said he beat people, robbed people. When I whooped a person's ass, it became a mugging real quick if you had some nice jewelry. All right? So don't mess with me. I didn't go around starting it, and I didn't go, oh, that guy has a nice, I'm going to beat him up. Nope. But if you mess with me, don't be coming in here with all that bling because you're going to lose it. There's a price to pay, right? Not realizing what a sin that was and how evil that is to be that way. Then when things happened to me, I was going like, why these bad things happen to me? I was probably because you were a thug and did bad things. So you correct that behavior. You stop being a thug and you grow the heck up. Stop walking around wanting to fight everybody. That was my thing. I loved to fight. I loved it. I worshiped violence. And I admit it. I was a bad sinner. I did bad things. I lived my life in a way that you live by the sword, you die by it. And I was going to be executed at some point. People were trying to do it. These people popping off and saying some stupid things, this is paradise compared to what I was living back then. People shooting up my truck. That's a whole nother thing. Stabbing me. I almost got stabbed and I nearly died. Did I stop the behavior at that point? No, I doubled down like a hard-headed idiot because that's what I was. I had a ton of knowledge, but I wasn't sharing it and I wasn't doing anything good for the world. I was taking from the world. And then it was like an epiphany. I'm sitting there and I'm like, everybody around me is trying to out-evil each other. What happens if I just try to do good? You think that was my own thought? No, it was free will, but God said, hey, it's time to go. And he pulled me out. And then I suffered. I languished for 2 or 3 years, 2.5 years, I guess. And I was crying like a big baby. I cry. People have seen me cry. I have my emotions sometimes. I get on my sleeve and I'm like, I feel bad. I feel horrible, whatever. And I cried and I said, God, why? Is this why I left this life? So I could just suffer and make $8 an hour. And I'm sitting there sweating my ass off in this parking garage, breathing in fumes. I'm sure it's not healthy. And it was like, God, I'm telling you, dude, I can still feel like it was yesterday. It was like a smack laid down on me. Like I just got pushed down. Like something was trying to push me down to the floorboard. Like, listen, dude, you could be dead or in prison for all of your bullshit. God doesn't say those words, but that's my thoughts. And I'm thinking, okay, I've committed a lot of BS, right? You know, nothing unforgivable, but living your life like a damn reprobate, running around downtown in clubs and all that other crap. That's not correct. That's not good behavior. Doing things, you know, smoking, drinking, partying, whatever the hell you want to do. That is not correct. And that's not of the spirit. I don't hang around downtown. I don't go down there. So there's no chance of me being the ladybird killer because I don't go down there. No, I don't hang in those bars or go into those places. And I would suggest anybody else stay the hell out of them. Don't do it. It's nothing but houses of ill repute. That's all it is. It's garbage. And the gangsters run all those clubs. They don't even realize it. A lot of it's just fronts, money laundering. And then you eventually you have to take responsibility and you say, God, okay, you know what? I'm sorry. You have delivered me and I am paying a penance right now. And God delivered me. And now I do better than I ever did as a thug. See, the difference between me and the people that did try to go after me are that I admit to my sins and I tell people that I was a sinner. And that's my testimony. I admit that I was a bad guy. Yeah. I could use cunning and conniving or whatever to get my way, but I don't do that because that's horrible. And that's what people who are afraid of the real reality, that's what they do. They create a fake reality, one in which they're the hero. They're the good, they're the Texas lawman, and his wife prays 4 hours a day, or they're swinging a sword and killing Dogman in the LBL. Bull crap. You're not doing that. Or you're just a good old simple Christian that's going out into the woods and some demons are attacking you and you can hear them caw in the distance, right? But you're doing it because you care about people, not because you're grifting and fraud, or because you're scorned and angry and overweight and disgusting and your wife left you because you're not a man. You refuse to participate in being a man or being in manhood. These are the kind of people that do what they do. Instead of getting their own house in order, they throw rocks at your house when their house is made of glass. And eventually they cry foul when that house is cracked and broken. A house that they built with no foundation. Only thing that it was sitting on was lies. The devil only props you up for so long. Only props you up for so long. And then eventually it all comes down and you have to pay the price. I had to suffer for what I did in the past. And there was a lot of suffering along the way. When I started this business, dude, I got my teeth kicked in many times. You know what happened to me one time? I went out to do our job and all of our patrol cars' tires were flat. The guards didn't even look. They just drove out into the driveway and of the place where we were at and popped all of our tires. They destroyed our accounts. They took things from us and we had to start over and over. There were some vile people in the security business, let me tell you. And I thought I left this life, and here I am having to fight these people that are absolutely abhorrent. And then guess what? Now I'm in this field too, and you thought you had to leave, you'd left all of that. The last two, things I had to do. Now I'm here and I'm fighting again, people that are absolutely abhorrent because those people will follow you. They have the same attachments, the same demons don't like you. And those demons follow you your whole life. They remember you when you were a child, when you were 6 years old, and you said the sinner's prayer, and you asked God, come into your heart, Christ, come into my heart, forgive me for my sins.
They keep score.
They keep score. You rebuke them and reject them as a child. I remember. I was a child, and I saw them in different places, but some of them looked the same. And other people could confirm that that's what they saw too. And then you become a man, and they can't feed on you. They're like a jilted lover. They become angry. And they use people, stupid people. Most of the time, they're very stupid people. Even as smart and cunning as they may think they are, and as foul-tongued as they are, they're still just a pawn. They're just a patsy for a demon that wants you. Because that demon knows the energy and power that you have. And I think everybody here would probably understand that because you're here for a reason. You're listening to this for a reason. These beings that did what they did to us years and years ago set us on a course of sin. You were born into it. It says in the Bible that you were born of sin. That's all there is. We don't know anything other than that. You can look at that creation story and say that it was Adam and Eve, and it was God and the devil, the serpent, or you can say it was Enki and Elil, and the serpent was actually trying to tell them, hey, this is, and so, he calls them that, and Enlil calls them that because he's mad at what happened. They were living in a garden of paradise. This isn't my version. It's Emu Elish. This is what the word said. This isn't me making it up. That's what they say.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because there is a one true living God. And the Gnostics talk about it. There is the God that is from the Old Testament. And then there is the true one living God that Jesus talks about. And he does make a very real distinction many times in the Bible about that, and especially in the Gnostic scriptures. He says it.
I've read the Gnostic text myself.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
The demiurge, they talk about the demiurge as being this not real God. It's not the true God. It is a little g God that set itself up as the one true God. And Jesus says that is not God. And there are many, many passages. I mean, he says it in Exodus when he refers to Exodus. It's a very controversial passage. And Jesus says, if you were a true loving father, would you send fiery serpents to your children to eat? That's when the children of Israel were hungry and they were asking for food. And their God was angry with them because he was tired of them being complaining. They're complaining because they're starving. So then he sends fiery serpents to punish them. But Jesus talks about that and says, if that was your father and he was a loving father, would he do that? It's food for thought. Because at this point in time in my life, I'm totally interested in the truth, but I want to be able to use common sense to discern these things. But people don't want to do that. They want to hang on to whatever it was that they were taught. And you're not going to change somebody's views from 30, 40 years of indoctrination. Believe me. You might as well forget it. Go on to the next generation because those people are not going to listen to you. Some people will. But typically when somebody's 35, 40 years old, what they're going to believe is already ingrained in them. And the only thing that's going to change that is the power of the Holy Spirit. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Look, guys, I got to get out of here. I got to be to work in a few hours, literally. I enjoyed you. Josh, you're amazing, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming by and stopping on and listening to us talk and ramble and just, all the things that we talk about. We get way out there and we come back,
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I wish I could sit down and just talk to you face to face because there's so much more that I got questions, but hey.
Well, I wanted to do another conference, but, death threats kind of stopped that.
Yeah.
Well, we're having a conference right now, though, so keep coming back on Mondays, bro.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to be here on Mondays, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come back. We'll see you again, and we're going to get to Scott. And thank you for being patient, Scott. And thank you, True.
All right, no problem. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
See you later, bro.
Peace, brother. Bye. Head on a swivel. Okay, Scott, what you got for us?
Okay, so getting back to this dream I had, and I had mentioned previously, I maybe picked up on it. This could be a possible black guy children story, but I'm not saying that, but just keep in mind. Now, one of the most important questions that I had in mind, I asked God, I prayed before I went to sleep. I prayed to God, what happens to children when they die prematurely? Or it could have been also linked with abortions or of that nature too. So anyway, same night, I fell asleep. So the dream opens up like this. So I'm standing in a room, and the room is lit up, and there's like 4 rows of children that are sitting cross-legged on the floor. Now, these children, little people, I'm just going to say little people, that they look probably at the age of maybe 3 or 4 as far as size goes. Their bodies were translucent white. And as now I'm going to continue with the next night. This is a continuation of the story the next night too. So I'm looking over, there is a teacher on a platform with a lantern, or that where they stand and they preach. What's that called again? Is it a lantern?
Podium.
Podium. Yeah. So there's a person. I'm going to say it's a human-like figure that is also in the same transparent, whitish, fuzzy-looking appearance, and he's on a stage, and he's talking to the children on a podium. Now he's up on a stage that is probably like 8 inches high from the floor. Now the children are sitting cross-legged, and they're all in rows. Like if I can remember, they're like 5, like 4 rows of 5, 10, 15, like 4 rows of 20, or 4 rows with 5 each. Let's just say there could have been 4. I can't remember, but they're all sitting, on the floor cross-legged. So I'm looking at the teacher who is saying something, but I'm not hearing any words, any information about this. Now, what's interesting about this is the eyes of these beings. I'm just going to call them beings. They were round. They weren't shaped like your typical alien, like, the teardrop kind of alien looking eye. They were round, and they were a little bigger than normal, but they were black. They were black. And so that's the end of the first part of the dream. So the second night, being mindful that when I prayed the first night, I said, what happens to children? Okay. So this is pertinent to the second part of the dream. So the second night, I'm laying in bed, and I asked God, who took me there? Who took me there? So the dream opens up the same identical situation with the children sitting there, the teacher sitting there. But what was really blows your mind with this. So I'm appearing again. Now the distance from me to the teacher is probably like, I would say like 10 feet. Now the room, I'm trying to describe this room. It seems to have no corners. It's round, but there's the lighting in there is from some other lighting. It's hard to, there's no, LED lights or anything like that, but it's lit up. But the background is all black. Oh, it's like illuminated in there. Now, so I'm appearing at the same, this is the second night of the dream. So the teacher turns his head and looks at me and has this surprised look, like, what are you doing here? Like, and it wasn't telepathic, but from the expression that I saw on, now this teacher is probably about 5 foot tall, and the children, like I'm saying, there maybe be like, like a 5-year-old, or like what I'm saying, like a 4-year-old, whatever height that is. So the teacher turns and looks at me and has this, like, the expression on its face is kind of like, and I can't recall its mouth, if it had a mouth or not, but what I felt was like the expression on the teacher's face was like, what are you doing? It was so surprised to see me there. Now, here's the thing. I had mentioned the second night, who took me there? So I looked down, and what was holding my hand was one of those children that were sitting there, cross-legged. And I looked down, and it had my hand like it led me there. So I looked down, and it was I'm going to call it a being, B-E-I-N-G, that was translucent, whitish, and it had these, like, I think the same kind of eyes, I believe. They weren't like alien eyes, but they were like round, and they were, I can't recall the eyes right now because it's been a few years. Not that I wrote it down in a diary, but I thought I wanted to share that because I wanted to share the possibility of, like True was saying, about we're getting into what if we are being prepared for another world that's coming, and those are souls. This is all hypothetical, but it's like but the teacher that is teaching those children, are they actually, aborted, sold, or children that had got killed prematurely that the teacher, now this is hypothetical for me, that the teacher was teaching them, whatever, how to overcome, being what happened to them or whatever. I guess that's all hypothetical from me, from that point of view. But I'm wondering about this dream because I prayed earnestly and truthfully and sincerely to God, what happens to, again, I said children. So, you can get the gist of, the small beings that were sitting there. So I wanted to, that was the end of the dream. And I didn't say anything the next night or at all, but I wanted to see if anybody else, can interject, what they thought about it, or Wolf, you too, like, what do you think about this?
Oh, that's a lot to take in. The black-eyed kid phenomena is something that's very odd, and I'm going to have a show that's coming up about it. We've done the recording of it already, and there's some more to it that I'm going to be talking about. Just 1 second, folks. I'll be right back. I'm sorry. I got to deal with something.
Even though Tiamat's supposed to be a woman, Tiamat's known as the father of the black-eyed children. And every time that people talk about or see these black-eyed children, it seems that there's hell to pay with them. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's quite the phenomenon. Anybody here have any black-eyed children encounters? Anybody in the chat? I can say of all the entities that are, is that me? That's.
I think maybe the black-eyed children are predominantly. Some people think they're hybrids. I think that they're a demonic entity.
Yeah.
Because they seem to disappear. People turn away and then they turn back and they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also, you never hear any good stories about them. Everything's evil. And, of course, with my background.
Somebody's mic is echoing there.
Yep. With my background, I look at everything, being demonic is, I'm biased in that direction, and I admit that. I think a lot of these alien abductions, I never hear any good stories about alien abduction. And so, that's an evil entity. So a lot of this stuff it doesn't look good to me. And it's like the Nephilim. Also, I see that somebody's got a question there. Do angels have free will? Yes.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's like the Washers took a vote and unanimously decided to defy God's will and try to have relationships and family with the human women. And they knew that what they were doing was against God's will, and they did it anyway. So they had to have free will, just like we do. That's one of the basic Christian doctrines that exist of free will. But getting back to the black-eyed children, I just think they are no good. And I've heard stories about people got sick from having exposure to them.
Yep.
And that it took a prayer circle to heal them. And kind of what Scott was talking about, the children. It's my understanding that children are get an automatic pass basically because they are children. And for instance, in the Jewish religion, when a child is, I think it's either 12 or 13, they have a bar mitzvah. That's when they become an adult for religious purposes. And I've done a couple of funerals for children, and that was something that I stress that, you know, there's biblical proof texts for that children have a soul from the moment of conception, and that they are pure, because even in our legal system, you know, we don't hold children below it, like in Texas, below the age of 10, responsible for anything. So, and that's a carryover probably from religious tenets that made its way into the common law.
I think it's interesting. I know the black-eyed children you're talking about, and yeah, those are not good things at all. But what really made my ears perked up, and I was trying to find it because Google only shows you what's most popular. I cannot find it. But there is a spirit that's kind of fey, but not, and I can't remember what it is. But it comes in like a ghostly white form, and it has round eyes, which black-eyed children have regular eyes; they're just black. So I thought it was really interesting. He said round.
Not all black-eyed children, because I've gotten different reports. Some of them do have a sort of an alien-eyed look about them, which has made people believe that maybe some of these, at least some of them, may be alien hybrids, you know, or something that's been taken over physically. They could be clones, they could be hybrids, or they could be demonic. We don't know. I know that there are. What happened, Tony?
I said, what if the aliens that are making these hybrids are demonic?
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Go back to the episode. I think it was a Patreon episode we did, but you guys get on Patreon. You can listen to it. And it was a woman that was assaulted by these beings, and they were vampiric. But she asked them what they were, and are you demons? And they said, yeah, but we're not local. Like, they're not from here. Like, they're interdimensional. They're from somewhere else, something. And they did what they did.
Mind you, this is a black and white dream. It's not a color dream, too. You know, FYI.
That is interesting. I mean, there's so many different variables here. I got a story from a guy, and I haven't done this one yet, but because there's a one that's coming out about a woman that happened, you know, here in Central Texas. And that one's already been recorded. But there's another one that a guy I worked with years ago, and he was living up in Dallas. And he was a security guard, and he had these two BEKs, black-eyed kids, trying to get into his building. And they messed with him for a couple of hours. And then they went away, and then they came back. That guy, I mean, I knew him for years. And it was a terrifying thing. He felt sick. Same thing with this woman, that the story that it's going to be, I think it's coming Saturday. And she felt sick. It got her sick. I mean, you know, it's just crazy. This a weird phenomena. The black-eyed kids. Don't know what they are. But they definitely exist. And there are people who have dreams like you did, Scott, where they have encounters with them in their daily real life. And then they have dreams about them too. Like, it doesn't end. Listen to the episode. I think it's coming out Saturday. If not this Saturday, that's the next Saturday. But
and the weird part about the Black Kid thing, it started like right around 1960s, I think, is when it started in like a native reservation or something, is where the actual like black-eyed children like started. It might be 50s. I don't know. So it's not like that old of a thing, but they're weird. Like the stories that come off those are just odd.
the first person that I know of that reported these, it was a case in Abilene, Texas, And it was David Weatherly, the author, because he wrote a book about him, and then he became known as the Black-Eyed Kid guy, which he's a good friend of mine. And he literally told me, he was like, I don't like being called that. I don't like when people, because he's done so much other work. He's done all these different states. He's trying to do the 50 states, and he's done like 20, 30 of them. And yeah, he doesn't like when he's called that. But because he's done so much other stuff, but he did kind of touch it off in the modern time. I don't say modern time. That's all modern time. But the most recently, it was him that kind of touched it off. Now, I don't doubt that there were cases that went back that far, because I've heard a few people that have had them, it's just that nobody was writing about it or saying anything. They were just kind of an oddball thing that would happen. But yeah, and somebody just says that they saw one that could shapeshift. Well, they do. They're shapeshifters too. They can do things. It's weird. And they're definitely malevolent. I've never heard a case where that people were not completely afraid and bothered by them. Telling me you're hungry, but you also look like you want to eat me.
I mean, Tiamat's known in Babylonian texts as the father of the black-eyed children, even though it's supposed to be a woman. So I don't know what to make of that. But
Tiamat is also the one that created the Bull Man, the Scorpion Man, the Bigfoot.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They literally describe it. But Tiamat could be. Here's the thing: it could be, a planet. It could be where they came from. These beings, that they were spun off from that. Because that is what some of these texts are telling us, that this was a planetary war. But you also, Tiamat, where does it say that Tiamat was the father or mother of the black-eyed children? Where does it say that?
In some Babylonian text that I read years and years ago.
But Lilith could be that too, because Lilith has created the vampiric race,
And the two that I was talking about there a couple of weeks ago that were supposed to be the father and mother of all monsters. Well, I can't remember what their names were.
Well, and if you go back far enough, you go beyond the Jinn, which is, there's the Jinn and the Jan. The Jan are the precursor to the Jinn. Past that is the Rim and Tim, the RIMM and TIMM. Look it up. You'll see that they were the precursor races to the, I mean, it's really weird. And then there was the Ben and Hin. The Ben and Hin are different than the Rim and Tim. I believe one predates the other. So you have these layers, which is really weird when you start thinking about it. There's layer upon layer. There's civilizations upon civilizations upon civilizations. If the Earth is 2.5 billion years old, you would not have even a fossil that would go beyond 100 million. So we would have no record, no remnants of any civilization that could have been prior to that time. And that is a very small sliver of our whatever, 100 million is nothing. I mean, you would have to go back 999 million. Look at how much that is just to get to 1 billion. And then there's 2.5 of that. I mean, that's ridiculous time. And you're telling me that in all that time, the Earth was never seeded by anything. Nobody was here. Nothing was here. And these energy. Now, if you said there was a civilization 1 billion years ago, right, Dick? 1 billion-year-old civilization. Mastered everything. Crumbles, decays, falls, and then there's nothing but troglodytes running around because they ate too much sugar or whatever, whatever. Too much caffeine. They get hyped up on whatever.
That's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed, right? And then they rise and up again. Another one, and they have remembrance. They have whatever. But then once you get further enough down, they're not going to have any memory of that civilization. Who came? Who did what? Nothing. Think of Three-Eyed Atlas. You know Three-Eyed Atlas, right?
Yeah.
We're at like what, 3 different races that are like humans but not, like the caveman, and then they had 3,
Australopithecus,
and they just found another one.
Yeah, there's more than 3. I mean, there's Australopithecus, there's Neanderthal, there's Cro-Magnon. There's all these different kind that were they could have been the templates for us.
But I mean, back to
their DNA, mixed it with the troglodytes here, and then you have humans.
Back to not remembering civilizations, though. We don't remember the civilization past the last reset.
Exactly. And so if you were to go back and try to find proof of this, you would not have it. that civilization could have been super duper advanced and then collapsed and then, gone off into the stars and did whatever. And here's the thing. Once they're here long enough as colonists, they're going to forget where they came from and who they are and what their purpose was and whatever, because this is their home. They don't think of Mars as their home or whatever, Pleiades or Andromeda, take your pick. And then the three-eyed Atlas, what is it? 1 billion years old is what they're saying. Something that could have traversed the galaxy 1 billion years ago. Civilization that has lived and died 1 million times already, literally, up and down, and it's over. And who knows how old that civilization is. And that thing was sent here so long ago. But if you're looking at the universe as being 12.5 billion years old, that's what the estimate is, right? Light years, whatever. That's a lot. So you're saying that we are only like, what, 1/6 of that on this planet? I just find it hard to believe that the world was created 6,000 years ago, and here we are. Oh, yeah, here we are, 6,000 years. That's it. Yet when Göbekli Tepe is like 12 to 13,000, they thought it was 11. Now they're saying 12 to 13. There's only 28,000 years, according to Graham Hancock.
Well, Josh, if you look at some of the people that study biblical languages, there are quite a few authors that say it wasn't that God created the heavens and earth; He recreated the heavens and earth. Was what was that? And so we don't know how many, like Dick said, how many resets we've been through.
Exactly. And then it says that God's face hovered over the face of the deep. His face,
Right.
So he was hovering over the deep. So the deep was already here.
Correct.
When he created the earth, literally it says that the earth was already here. It was formless, void, whatever.
Look up the deep in the Strong's Concordance. Guess what it is?
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Tiamat.
Yeah. That's weird. That's weird because I was going to say it's a dragon. It's like a dragon. That's what people say.
Yeah.
So you have this creation, which could be a terraforming, right? This being, hypothetically, I'm not saying this is what I believe because I don't know, but hypothetically, this being terraforms the earth and creates mankind. And then, of course, he sets himself up as God, but he's not God. Because if he was God, then Jesus wouldn't have had to come and do what he needed to do. And then he says, "This your God is not my God." He goes, "Mine is the one true God, the living God, the creator of all things, and you're worshiping the Shaitan, and you're of the synagogue of Shaitan." That's why it goes back to the biblical. And Jesus, it doesn't take away from it; it adds to it. And Jesus says, "Look, you can say whatever you want, you can call it whatever, but that's not the truth." He says, "Mine is the real truth." And then he gets killed he's murdered for it. Yeah. And then the people that did it, they're excused somehow. I don't understand that part. I can never grasp that. And why you would be so fundamentally wrong and effed up that you would go and follow that and say that is God's will. Why would God's son be killed in the flesh by these people? And then you say, well, that's who we should be following. No, it's not. And war after war after war, and problem after problem after problem, be with this same cabal, And it's not everybody. There's a certain faction within that group that is just determined to rule the world, and they rule the banks. They control everything. They control media, and so you're strangulated and choked out if you tell the truth.
The fallen ones.
Yeah. And they have pawns that do their bidding. I mean, there's people that out there running around that'll just fall right into it just because they're angry and bitter or whatever, because of whatever they believe, whatever misconception they have. Never
look how hard they worked at being evil.
Yeah,
they put in a lot of effort. I've always thought that, to me, it seems like to do the right thing would be a lot easier than having to come up with all these schemes and shadow governments and psychological control of people.
MK Ultra.
And do all of that stuff. To me, it looks like it'd just be easier to be a nice guy, and we wouldn't have all these wars and all the famine and everything. But,
even if you didn't have that altruism. Tony, I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
I'm just a crazy old guy with some screwy ideas, I guess.
Well, I guess I am too, because I agree with you. And the thing is, even if you took out morality, take morality out of the equation, it would just be easier to do what is right, period. I mean, there is this mental gymnastics, and I will add to it and say it's spiritual gymnastics that they have to do. They have to jump through all these hoops to continue this charade of nonsense. And it doesn't work. It's not correct. And how much power do you need? Do you need to rule the earth? Because just on this plane of existence alone, there is plenty to go around. Why do you need to have everything that I have? Why does everything need to be a vassal state? And why does every war have to add to your riches? And then making everybody into a zombified, parasitized clone of yourself. There are countries now that aren't allowed to speak out against these people at all. They can't say anything. It's a crime. They have made it so difficult to speak out. And they're this close, but they've been this close before. And just like football or baseball, those are games of inches. And this is a game of inches. And being this close doesn't get you anywhere. This is not horseshoes. Okay? If it's horseshoes and hand grenades, you can be that close and win, but not in this game. And that's the thing. And all the morons in the world that back them up and parrot what they say, and all their simple energy to get is not going to make it happen. You can curse God all day long, and you can jump around all day long, and you can scream whatever you want from the top of the trees. It doesn't make it true. Because truth is truth and lies are lies. And this is the Lord of illusion we're dealing with. And Jesus let me say this, and I got to leave here, but I'm going to leave you with this. The devil, if you want to call him that, Satan, the Shaitan, there's a group of them. That's not the same being that we're fighting. Jesus pulled his fangs. Now he's just roaring, but he doesn't have the power. This was his kingdom. Jesus was very specific about that. Why would he say that this world belongs to him? Why would he say that? Why would this world belong to him if God, the perfect true God, created it? It doesn't make sense. So if you used common sense and you said, well, then maybe that's not who God is. Maybe the devil, Satan, is the one in charge because Jesus says he is. He takes Jesus up to a mountain and tells him, look at all the kingdoms of the world. This could all be yours. And Jesus laughs like, okay, yeah, dude, whatever. This is, him in his earthly body confined to being a human. And he's like, this isn't my kingdom. This isn't for me. There are many mansions in my God, my Father. He knows, and this devil knows this. He knows that his time is infinite, is finite. He knows that it's not going to last. He knows that he is bound in this world, which is just a simple place. Maybe his creation, we don't know. But this is just his little kingdom here. And he's so foolish that he's so caught up in his own narcissism because he worships himself. Very proud he is. And tells Jesus, look at all these kingdoms. They could be yours. Why would Jesus want to be in this swamp? He can go back to the source, his Father, the source of all that is, all the light and love and everything that there could possibly be. So it's almost like a homeless guy, I've said this before, walks up to you and says, hey, buddy, you give me $1 million, I'll give you this half-eaten apple. I got some Tim Hortons biscuits here, and I got a street sign on it.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
I didn't have any money, and I jacked it from this guy outside of the CVS. Oh, that sounds like a great deal. You know what? Here is your money, sir. Lucky day. Give me that crap. I'll take it. Yes. Can't wait to go home and festoon my bedchambers with all this wonderful crap I just got from you. Who in their right mind is going to buy into that? But the devil, if you notice his minions and the people that follow him, they say and do the most ridiculous, most outlandish things, and they throw poop at the wall and hope it sticks. That's what he was doing for years. And then the people that follow him, because they think he's God, right? They go and they do the same thing, and they like chimps. They chimp out and they act crazy, and they think that's a ticket. Yeah. Well, it never works out, right? It never works out. And then here is Christ, who has to be laughing to himself, like, why is this being this stupid? But if you read the Gnostics, it talks about the archons. They're not smart. They can't even create life. They can't. They can't do anything. They can only mimic everything because they're stupid and their people are stupid, and they don't create anything. They just mimic, right? Nothing that's good anyway. So then Christ is crucified, and the devil, obviously the Shaitan, they're celebrating. They think that they've done it. Well, we've actually murdered this guy. It's done. It's over. But that didn't happen, did it? Christ rose back up, and that was a big problem. So he was defeated. Satan was defeated. So we are dealing with not the pre-crucifixion Satan who had all the power in the world. We are dealing with the defeated Satan. And even if you think this is the little season, then that's just what it is. It's the little season. It's a little time. And he's going to be loose to act a fool. But in the end, he's still going to be shut up and he's going to be destroyed. And I mean as the collective of what they are, the cabal. They will be destroyed. And they have to know that. They can deceive all these stupid people that go up there and accept awards and pat each other on the back and sing evil songs and put demonic things and sigils everywhere. The Super Bowl halftime show being one of them. Doing all these horrible things in Hollywood and vampires and all this other crap. Good, great. Go do what you got to do. Enjoy your time with your false god, Moloch. Go ahead, because that time will come to an end. And no matter how many people you kill, no matter how many wars you create, no matter how many famines and plagues you cause, you are never going to be God. Never. And your God will never be God. He will just be what he is. A footstool on a backwater planet that God sent his son to take us out of because he felt bad for us. That's the truth. And these beings, these people, they don't realize how really insignificant we are. God took pity on us, not the other way around. I've had people tell me, well, I guess I'll give God a try. Like, oh, really? You'll give God a try? God gave you a chance when you didn't deserve it. I was one of those people. God gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it. I was a silly bastard who thought he was more than he was. And even though nobody smacked me around and whooped my ass into whatever, I didn't need it. I didn't need to touch the fire to see that it was hot. I was like, okay, I know this is stupid. And crying and begging God every day. Come on, please, God. What is that going to do? You're where you at because of what you've done. So you take your medicine and you pull yourself up by your boots and you quit aggravating God and you do what you're supposed to do. Then God will say, okay, now you're ready, because now there's some humble humility to you. I had people that would come into that parking garage and look at me wearing that uniform and be like, geez, how the mighty have fallen. Look at this guy. He's a security guard over here in a parking garage. Like, weren't you a badass running a club now? Now you're just some punk. Yeah, they looked at me like that. They would be like, what happened? Like I had fallen into dumpster diving problems or something. You know what that's like when you have an ego and you're basically, you think you're more than you are. And that God smacks you down real quick. You know how many times I walked back to my truck and I just sat there, dude? I had two girls that I had once dated come through there. Can you imagine how embarrassing that is? They're looking at you and they're like, one of them had this guy that she was with and he's driving this nice car. And here I am wearing a security jacket in this hot garage, standing there while some ticket taker guy is, basically my boss at the time. That's good for you. And my boss, the guy that was his boss, was totally crappy to me. And his boss was some woman who was from East Germany, and she couldn't have been meaner. She came in one time and just told me, she goes, you look like a slob. Tuck your shirt in. I was tired, it was hot, it was the end of the shift, and I'm going, I want to quit this job so bad. But I didn't have anything else. But you know what was the hardest part? I did have something else, because I could see 6th Street right there from that parking garage. And that was the brutal reality of it. Every time I went to work, I could see my home right there. I had to see it every night. I had to see the people that I hung out with and, was partying and all that. And all the entertainment and fun around me, people coming up drunk and high and whatever, and I'm stone sober. And I had to sit there and take it. And you know how many times I told myself, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to quit. I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to be punked out like this. And I would go home and then I would pray. And then I would change my mind and I would go back to work and keep doing what I was doing. Because I knew that there was another way. And eventually God delivered me. But not until he was ready. He did it in his time, not mine. Law, you're making noise there, Law. Welcome to the show. But that was the thing. I thought I was somebody, but God has a way of breaking you down and humbling you. But the thing is, he'll build you back up in his time when he's ready. People look at me and they think, oh, this guy's just always had this or that. No, I haven't. No, I've had to fight for everything. I was homeless when I was 17. 18. I was 18, homeless. I did everything I could to try to make it with no help. No help. I struggled. I remember not having a vehicle, and this mechanic took my vehicle and he wouldn't give it back to me because I couldn't pay for it, you know? And so, you know, I had a pizza delivery job. What am I going to do without a vehicle? It's very hard. So I got back into security and I said, okay. And so I had a neighbor that was nice and she gave me a ride. And I went to my job and I finally got paid and I went and got my vehicle. And then I got my job back and I worked both jobs. And see, that was a time in life where I got on my knees and I prayed to God. All these bad things were happening to me. But even after that, even after God delivered me and put me back on the right track, still the temptation was too much. I had to go and be a stupid ass and do the stupid things that a lot of people go through that. They go through this hard-headed back and forth. And eventually you have to say enough is enough and I'm going to live my life correctly. And that's what I've done. I just have no patience for criminality at all. I don't. There was a show one time my nephews were watching. I might have said this before. And there was some guy with a mask on and he had the head bandana, whatever. And he was from some other country, like, I don't know, Colombia or some shit. And he was over there like talking in Spanish and excusing himself for why he steals people's cell phones and their information and steals from them. Oh, I was born poor and I had nothing and blah, blah, blah. That's your excuse? You're a POS. That's your excuse. Because you're born into that station for a reason. You have something to work out. That God is giving you that opportunity. It's an opportunity. Some people look at things as a burden. When God gives you a wounded animal to help, that is a blessing because he's giving you an opportunity for redemption. When he puts a person that needs help in your path, that is an opportunity because that is a way to show that you actually care, that you have love, which Jesus says covers a multitude of sin. You know how many times I've helped people? I'm not talking about this to pat on the back. I'm telling you this is what you should do. And then they've turned around and said things about me. There's several of them out there running around now. When they needed help, I didn't ask questions. I helped them. And now they stick you in the back and they say things bad about you. But the thing is, who is it really hurting at the end of the day? That person has to go to sleep knowing that they're a slime ball. And that they literally, when they were at their worst and they needed the help, and they just slandered and attacked the person that helped them. I think we've all been there and been like, man, I shouldn't have done that. You know, you said something out of turn, out of anger, or you just wanted to be a part of the conversation. That's something that you do when you're young, typically. But these people aren't young. They haven't learned those lessons. So I don't get mad at those people. You know what I do? I pity them. I feel sorry for those people because they are 50 years old or 40-something years old, and they're still pulling crap like that. They haven't learned a thing. You can go to church all day long and not learn nothing, not learn anything. That's the sad reality right there. Right? So who is it hurting? Really, it's them. They're hurting themselves and their non-existent relationship with God. Or maybe they have a relationship with God. It's the God of the Old Testament that tells them to be angry and vengeful. He punished Jeremiah for not for praying for his enemies. Why would God punish you for praying for your enemies? Unless that's what a priest wrote, because they want you to have a fervor and anger and hatred for the enemy. So you'll go and you'll kill them for them. Because you notice the priests don't do the fighting. The soldiers do. And the priests sit back and say, okay, you did a good job. Now we need 32 virgins, 32 oxen, 32 cattle, and all this. And why do you need all that? Well, Yahweh said he needed that. That's what I was talking to Yahweh. You can't question that. Right behind that curtain, that holy curtain we put up, that's where Yahweh dwells. And only I can go in there. And he said, now hold on. I know you're getting anxious. You're going to get yours. Here's 2 pieces of silver. Let me go ahead and take all this cattle and the beautiful women. I'm going to give them to Yahweh right quick. That's what they did. And the soldiers are like, I don't think this is correct. Well, but it's written on this parchment here. It says this is God's word. I guess so. They ignore the part where God says, I don't need any of that. I didn't ask for that. They ignore all of that. They don't care about that. They don't. That part is right out. And what Jesus comes and says, ooh, that just makes them mad. They just get really mad. And then it bothers people. So the truth burns. It hurts because you're cursing them with it. No, they'd rather, God said not to pray for this person. God, let me make up some more crap. He hired warlocks and witches to do his bidding because I'm on my knees 4 hours a day praying. Sure you are. Sure you are. Right? Because that's what everybody does. Even at my worst, I wasn't on my knees 4 hours praying. I'd be lying if I said that. You know what I was doing? I was grumbling and complaining. And God, my God, didn't send fiery serpents down to bite me and hurt me. He just said, hey, calm down. Could be a lot worse. And I will deliver you in my time. And I felt that in my chest and in my heart. There's a lot of things I could have done to make my life a lot easier and a lot better, and I didn't do them because I know it was wrong. You can cheat, you can lie, you can fraud, you can grift, you can do whatever you want. You got free will. But remember, that is an expensive credit card you're using with a lot of interest, and you're going to have to pay it. And a lot of people are in no position to pay that debt. And when they're given the opportunity to cut some of that debt off, they irresponsibly do the wrong thing. They see somebody who needs help and they're like, I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that. Right? We're all guilty of it. I'm too busy to mess with that person. That person, you're seeing that for a reason. You have a chance right there to cut some of your karmic debt and you don't do it. Then when the bill comes due, you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do? I can't do this. Yeah, because you spent your money on frivolous things. You spent your karma like you used it. Creating lies and fraud and grift. And you could have done a lot of good. Some of the people that have attacked me, if they would turn their energy toward themselves and God, working on themselves, they could be really, really good people. But they choose to do evil. And that will come due one day. And it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not going to be around to see it. I don't care. It's you, between you and God. That's what matters. So that's all I got to say. Thank you for tuning in. I thank you to my guests for being here. Thank you for everybody that's here tonight. And great stories. I mean, everybody had some incredible encounters. Even Sparky being, the bull and coming at us with his beliefs. That's the good thing. We're not just going to be an echo chamber. I like when people are ignorant and challenge us, and we can set them straight. Look at Sparky like, what? No, he has a right to say whatever he's going to say, and he can believe what he wants to believe. That's the good thing about it. And you have these conversations back and forth. You can talk and you can have disagreements and be respectful. That's what life is. And you sit around, scholarly men back in the day would sit around and they would debate things and postulate on things. And that's how they figured stuff out. They didn't just go, you don't believe like me, ooh, ooh, and they start throwing poop at each other. And then the next thing you know, they're just, it's a feces festival. That's what people do nowadays. Is so bad. It's so ridiculous. Because you're not on my team. Reach across the aisle and say, look, I'm trying to meet you part way. What can we do? That's how business works. That's why I say if you hold grudges, you'll be broke. You'll die alone and broke with no satisfaction. Just a stupid thing to do. Anyways, guys, we'll be back tomorrow night. Is the Patreon episode. It's going to be good. Anthony's not in here. They're doing right now. Him and Tony are putting together the Patreon mail-offs and the giveaways. So that's what we're doing. This is a night that I said every live stream we're going to have a giveaway. So who has not won? Tell me if you've not won, and I will put your name. And maybe if we could get you down, we could probably put you in tonight if you email us tonight, right now. If you email us, right? The emailed address, here it is. Let's see. Thank you to those who donated. We got 3 donations there. But thank you to those that donated. Thank you to those that helped. Let's see here. The banner. Giveaways at prtpodcast.com. Giveaways at prtpodcast.com. One more time. Giveaways at prtpodcast.com. That is the information that you need to email to. You send it, your name, you send your address, and what you want. Tonight we're doing hats. We have a bunch of them. We need to give them away. And so if you want to win a hat, this is where it's at. So tell me you haven't won, and you'll win a hat. Randy's asking about our dog. Pray for our dog, baby. She is not doing well. She's been sick the last few days, and she's getting worse. And that dog, she is an empathic dog. I'm telling you, when you're not feeling well, she'll run to you and make you feel better. She'll stay with you while you're sick. It's crazy. But she's not doing good.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm going to head out to the ranch as I leave here because I got to take her some stuff. And we're afraid she might have kennel cough, so we don't want to put her around the other dogs. So, but she's out there at the ranch with my brother. So David Lantis says, I haven't won. So David, you win. You got the information right there, and just send your name and your address and what you won, which is a cap, PRT cap, and we'll send you some stickers and a keychain. Who else? Who else hasn't won? Let me know. We'll pick one more person, then I got to run because it's been 3 hours, 45 minutes of this. Nobody's even typing here. Last night it was a bunch of people trying to get stuff. Tonight everybody's like, "Nah, we don't care. We don't want to win."
Well, you can make a direct deposit to my account.
There you go. Heather Barker says, I haven't won. There you go, Heather. You win. If you guys email us right now, I can get you in. Otherwise, you got to wait till next week at the end of the week. So just email me.
Now you got them going through.
Yeah, now you got people saying I haven't won. So, guys, we'll be back on Wednesday with the live stream, right? And then we'll be just pre-records on Thursday, the members. And then Friday, we have the shorter stories are like 30, 40 minutes. And then Saturday we have Friday is the guests. We have a guest, Truth and Bass Part 3. And then Saturday is the short stories. It's just individual encounter. And then Sunday we're back with the podcast, the YouTube channel. Live stream. Yeah, go check out Abe. He's live right now. So I know Scott and I know Sparky, you've been on there, you guys. I got things I got to do. I might pop in later, but I got to get going here. I got to out to the ranch. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you for everybody who's made PRT the best of what it is, which is the audience. Wouldn't be anything without the audience. There's a bunch of people talking. And if your name is in green, you're on the right track because it means you're in the members only. And Thursday is where it's at. That's the members show. Get your name in green. Become a member. Join the member. It's $5 for the month, and you get all the episodes that we release on Thursday. And join the Patreon. It's a $10 buy-in, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. And after 2 months, you get a swag bag. After 6 months, you get another one. We keep going. Every 6 months, we give you an updated one. And here's the thing. We want you to do that. We want you to wear the merchandise. It helps us promote the show. And we want to give away stuff. That helps us. So join the Patreon. You won't be disappointed. And we have a heck of a library that we're creating. And Dick Richards has sat in on multiple of the recordings on the Patreon. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's
lucky you guys.
Some people say that's a bonus. Other people are saying that's a curse. I don't know. It just
you got a lot of videos up there already. I'm on your Patreon now. So I was like, I was going through a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like it. It's good. It's really good. It gives, like when you're not on, be able to go on there and catch, this and more. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody, good night. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to play out here with a new song that Nelly made. It's the newest one called The Prophecy. It's a Yeats based on the poem The Second Coming. It's a really good one. I gave her that as an idea, and she did it. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Love you guys.
I'll see you, Richard.
Love you, buddy. God bless.
God bless.
Of kingdoms, a new world rising, politics colliding, the truth becoming a stranger, the mouth of a new era opening wider, a ceremony of innocence swallowed. Second coming, a prophecy, a warning. Prophecy, the second coming, a prophecy, a warning. An image, not one of holiness, a shared imagination, a symbolic revelation, a vision of darkness, a creature born from the chaos, a collective consciousness, brutal and godless. Prophecy, the second coming, a prophecy, a warning. Prophecy, the second coming, a prophecy, a warning. 2,000 years, the end of an era, history moves, it bends. When morals and spirituality become extinct to humanity, salvation hides where many won't seek, as an uncontrollable darkness swallows the world whole. Prophecy, the second coming, a prophecy, a warning. Prophecy, the second coming, a prophecy, a warning. The future looks grim from here to end, as darkness slithers in, up from your desert sand. A beast rises, a lion body ahead of a man, a soulless blank gaze, pitiless. An ancient power moves spirits flying in confusion as the ghostly remnants remain as echoes of the